the Sorcerer of the Celestial Dragon line. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301 Tree Man. On the other side, Wizard Nicholas had already dealt with the body of the Demon Lord, which was badly damaged. The most precious things inside were the heart and the pair of horns. If it was the real body, the value of this body would be high. Not only the skin, scales, bones, blood, etc. were valuable, but also the soul crystal and divinity. Now it was just a defective product with limited value. Arrange the portal and ask the logistics department to come quickly. This place has been injected with the evil energy of the abyss, and it needs to be extracted as soon as possible. The land needs to be purified. Those animals and plants need to be destroyed as soon as possible. Build a sealing barrier here and temporarily close it off to prevent the surrounding creatures from accidentally breaking in. At that time, it will be a big problem to spread the energy of the abyss. After cleaning up the battlefield, several tower masters began to arrange tasks one after another. This place was polluted by the evil energy of the abyss. If it is not dealt with quickly, the corrosion of the abyss will become more and more serious. The will of the abyss will use this place as a breakthrough point to eat away the material plane bit by bit. Soon a portal was set up. The Five Rings Tower had already prepared and sent a large number of wizards to deal with this place. The wizards in the botanical garden were very good at this. After helping to set up the protective barrier, Allen followed other wizards and left here and returned to the Five Rings Tower. After dealing with the Demon Lord, Wizard Nicholas Mellor left directly. The other high-level wizards began to hide in the academy to recover from their injuries. Only Allen was not hurt at all. He wandered around the academy all day and studied the corpses of those demons. Allen got 3 high-level soul crystals in this battle. This kind of soul crystal can be used to make steel golems. The challenge level of the complete version of the steel golem is level 15, which is equivalent to a level 3 wizard. It requires a lot of precious materials and the cost is also touching. Allen has only 2 so far. This time he got 3. He plans to make them after a while. But just when Allen was about to return to the wizard tower, someone else came to him. Sir Allen, this is a task issued by the academy's top management. Because the Five Rings Tower is short of manpower, the cleaning task is very stressful. The academy requires you to take the cleaning task. The formal wizard in black robe handed Allen a parchment scroll. He took the parchment scroll and said, "I know. I will carry out the cleaning task as soon as possible." After saying that, he waved his hand and sent the wizard away. Allen unfolded the parchment scroll and pouted. It's these guys who like to die again. They don't want to take the right path, but have to take shortcuts. Why not choose the demon bloodline? The elemental tide has begun. Such a good benefit doesn't seize the time to get promoted, but has to do these weird things. Allen had no good feelings for these fallen warlocks who delayed his plan. Moonlight Garden, Fangorn Forest, Black Swan Lake. Hiding in these places, it's really troublesome. Allen looked through the list and information, packed up his things, and left the Five Rings Tower directly. Let's go to Moonlight Garden first. It's the nearest place. Allen looked at the map and sent the Frost-winged dragon under his seat. The huge Frost-winged dragon shook its wings, adjusted its direction, and flew directly to Moonlight Forest. Moonlight Forest is located in the Kiev Mountains on the mainland. It is a small resource point. In the past, it produced some moonlight fruits and other magic potions. The effect of moonlight fruits can enhance physical fitness. However, due to an experimental accident, this small base was seriously polluted. It cost a lot to clean up the pollution. There were no things of high value here, so it was directly abandoned by the wizard organization at that time. In the following hundreds of years, many wandering wizards went in to try their luck. The passage of time gradually subsided the pollution, and some magic potions with tenacious vitality still grew in it. It was 2 days later when Allen came here. If you want to enter Moonlight Garden, you must do it at a specific time. Moonlight Garden will reveal a door under the moonlight, and you can enter after opening it. Allen waited in the forest until night. Today's luck was good. About 3 or 4 hours later, under the moonlight, ripples rose in the forest. After the ripple spread, a portal appeared on the spot, and a spiritual light rose in Allen's hand. High level mage armor. Then he took out the dragon's fang and stepped in. Warning, warning. Evil spirits have been scanned. Negative energy spirits have been scanned. Radiation pollution exceeds the standard. Negative energy exceeds the standard. Please leave as soon as possible. It is recommended that the host bless negative energy resistance. As soon as he stepped into the garden, the chip kept reminding Allen to snap his fingers and a negative energy resistance barrier rose, and then he began to observe the surroundings. In front of him was a large garden, but the plants planted had become twisted and hideous, and had strange shapes. These were all polluted demonic plants, and had completely lost their value. Allen did not stop, and walked directly inside. A tall tree appeared not far away. The tree did not seem to have changed. Allen looked at it for a few times, and prepared to pass under the tree. Just as Allen walked under the tree, the whole tree suddenly came alive. The huge trunk stood up directly, and a set of facial features appeared on the surface of the trunk, but it looked abnormally hideous. A huge wooden stick fell on his head, but Allen was not panicked at all. The dragon's fang in his hand swept across in an instant, like a pool of autumn water. Clang. A large branch was cut off by Allen. Light green juice gushed out, and there was a trace of dark red in the light green juice. Allen did not stop at all, and the sharp sword in his hand danced quickly. In a breath, he cut the polluted tree man into a stick. The tree man's blood flowed, but he had no reaction to these injuries. His eyes were red, and wanted to kill Allen. Allen frowned slightly, and a flash of light flashed in his hand. Monster immobilization spell. The tree man stopped moving directly, and stood there stupidly. Purification spell. Dispersion spell. 2 consecutive spiritual lights rose, and a large amount of black evil energy flowed out from the tree man's wound, and dyed the ground into a charred black. Treemen are an ancient tribe in the wizarding world, also known as tree shepherds. There are not many of them, but they have a long lifespan, and like to live in the forest. They are hermaphroditic, can reproduce themselves, and can purify polluted environments. The wizarding world stipulates that it is not allowed to harm treemen, because they will restore the pollution caused by wizards to a habitable environment. And this treeman is obviously wrong, and Allen's intuition tells him that this is related to his mission. However, treemen think very slowly, and their language communication can take you until the end of time, and Allen doesn't have time to waste here. Chapter 302 I have made contributions to the college. Seeing the evil energy in the body of the tree man in front of him being cleared out, his eyes gradually regained clarity. Allen stopped casting the spell. He snapped his fingers, and a ray of light instantly enveloped them. Soul Link. This spell allows 2 souls to communicate with each other, and there is another advantage. That is, if you lie in this state, you will be discovered by the other party. Because of the species, the tree man is very slow to communicate, and Allen directly communicates with the soul. Hello, tree man. Can you tell me what happened here? Allen's voice sounded directly in the soul. What happened to me? A strong voice sounded. I remember that I was caught by a wizard. Yes, he also injected a kind of evil blood into my body. Oh my god. What did I do? The tree man fell into self-blame. Hello, tree man. I think you should tell me what happened to you. Allen interrupted the tree man's self-love and self-pity. Who are you? I'm a wizard. Wizard, it's you again. Damn liar. Get out. Hearing Allen say that he was a wizard, the tree man was furious. I think you need to calm down. Allen's soul lit up slightly, and the tree man woke up instantly. I just saved you. Sorry, I was plotted against by a wizard, so I have some aversion to wizards. The tree man calmed down and said, I understand. Then can you tell me about the wizard who plotted against you? I need to capture him. Of course. The wizard came here a month ago. He behaved normally at first. I was still asleep at that time. When I woke up and started to work to clean up the pollution here, he took the initiative to help after seeing it, so I regarded him as a friend. After a few days, he asked me about the secret realm hidden in the Moonlight Garden, and I told him, but I didn't expect that he had already prepared to attack me. He took control of me while I was sleeping, and then implanted a bottle of red blood in me to imprison me here. Secret realm? There is a secret realm in the Moonlight Garden? Allen asked curiously. Yes, that secret place is not big. Few people know about it. It is not polluted, and it has been guarded by us tree people. The wizard hid in the secret place. I remember he is in it. Can you open the secret place? I need to catch him back for trial. Of course. After a conversation, Allen disconnected the soul connection. Seeing the recovered tree man, Allen nodded and a green aura rose in his hand. Growth spell. A large amount of green energy poured into the tree man's body, and the branches and leaves that Allen had just cut off grew again. After a few breaths, they grew to their previous size. Thank you very much. The tree man thanked him slowly, then slowly stood up, left the place, and then a large amount of green aura emanated from the branches. A light gate slowly appeared where the tree man had just stood. Thank you. Allen waved to the tree man, and then stepped through the light gate. The world behind the gate was a beautiful sea of flowers, full of various magical plants, without any signs of pollution. Chip. Scan for negative energy here. Scan for living creatures. An invisible wave of light swept past, and soon a light spot appeared on the screen in front of Allen. Allen took a look, and walked directly towards the light spot. In the moonlight secret realm, an embarrassed figure was fleeing madly. He was wearing a black wizard robe, and exuded a strong smell of sulfur. While running quickly, he kept throwing spell scrolls to the back. A flash of light flashed, and these spells were all formal spells. Allen kept chasing the black-robed wizard in front of him. The aura of this black-robed wizard had reached level 2. When he saw Allen, he had no fear, and wanted to kill him directly, but he didn't expect Allen's strength to be so strong. He crushed his spells directly, and then cut him with a sword. If it weren't for the fact that this black-robed wizard had fused the blood of the devil and his body had been strengthened a lot, this sword would have killed him, and then the wizard began to flee, relying on the familiar terrain and various backups left behind to escape Allen's pursuit. However, all his methods were useless. The dark red blood from the wound just now was constantly flowing out, and the strong smell of sulfur filled the surroundings. Allen flashed, and the next moment he appeared directly in front of him, kicking him to the ground. With a flash of light in his hand, the confinement spell was activated instantly, and he was controlled. Let me go. Let me go. You can't do this to me. I have made contributions to the academy, I have shed blood for the dean, and I have participated in the bloody battle in the secret realm. You can't do this to me. I want to see the dean. I want to see the dean. The black-robed wizard in front of him was excited, with a crazy look in his eyes. Scales quickly appeared on his body, and even his breath smelled of sulfur. I'm not controlled. I'm very awake. Ah. The veins on the black-robed wizard's body bulged, and an evil power burst out from his body. At the same time, the breath began to rise rapidly, and his appearance was visibly aged. Damn it, the will of the abyss is making trouble again. Allen knew that his situation was not good when he saw it. He made a prompt decision. Pulled out the dragon's fang in his hand instantly, and then swung out with a sword, directly killing him. Dark red blood gushed out, fell to the ground, and corroded the surrounding black pits. Feeling his breath slowly fading, Allen breathed a sigh of relief. Fuck, he's really good at tossing. Seeing the wizard die, Allen began to deal with the aftermath. First of all, the body needs to be taken back. After all, he has made contributions to the academy. The body will be purified and rebreed. As for the pollution caused by the battle here, it also needs to be cleaned up. There is also a check to see if the wizard has left any demon blood outside. The will of the abyss is now keeping a close eye on the wizard world, and any negligence will have a huge impact. This wizard originally had good potential, and could at least reach the 3rd level of wizard. At this time, when the elemental tide is surging, if he is lucky enough, he may even step into the legend. It's just because of his wrong choice that everything is over. Allen collected the dark red blood stains around him and burned them directly. He also used purification to purify the remaining abyss aura. After all the traces were cleared, he had some thoughts. After passing through a light gate, Allen said hello to the tree man, then turned around and left the moonlight garden, and then took out the mission scroll to look for the next target. Chapter 303, Transforming the Demiplane. 2 months later, Allen returned to the Five Rings Tower in a dusty state and handed over the task. The academy has been making a lot of moves internally during this period. The cleanup plan is to eliminate all the fallen warlocks. Those who can be rescued will be taken to the forbidden magic prison, waiting for them to extract their blood and observe them. Those who have been infected by the abyss will be executed directly. A large amount of potion resources have been allocated, and the wizards of the alchemy tower have been very busy during this period. The academy has taken out a large amount of stored materials for awards. Basically, even the wizard apprentices have been allocated a few bottles of low-level potions. It seems that this is the distribution of task income, but in fact the top management is strengthening the strength of middle and low-level wizards. After all, the low-level buildings determine the high level. If the lower level wizards cannot continue to send talents to the upper level, the Five Rings Tower will eventually be eliminated by history. Allen's authority has also been raised to level 4. This was originally the authority of the third level wizards. Because Allen participated in several important tasks in a row, he was promoted out of turn. However, Allen felt that this was more due to his rejection of Nicholas Meller. As long as Dean Alfred is not crazy, he will definitely take care of Allen. With the 4th level authority, Allen can barely be called a senior official in the Five Rings Tower. He can freely browse the information books in the Tower of Wisdom. In the past, many magic potions and magic creation drawings required magic stone contributions to view, but now they can be viewed directly with the authority. Some precious materials in the secret treasure house of the academy can also be exchanged. Allen does not need to spend a lot of effort to search all over the world for many materials. He only needs to spend some resources or money to exchange them. Allen received a reward from the academy, which is a bottle of dragon blood potion. This is made from the materials of the white dragon in the underground secret realm. However, for Allen, the effect is limited, but for other wizards, it is a rare opportunity, and it is very popular to exchange things. In the future, Allen will receive some resources from the academy every year, including magic potions, materials, magic stones and other items. The second phase of the construction of the wizard tower has basically been completed. The wizard tower can now support operations and tactical strikes. Although there are still some problems with energy, Allen has put the third phase of construction on the agenda. The most important things in the third phase of the wizard tower are the energy core and the magic net. Everything else serves these two cores. Allen, the element furnace, took a different approach and used the nuclear reactor on Earth. However, the technology on the technological side has great limitations, the most important of which is the low energy utilization rate. The most mature fission reactor has an energy utilization rate of less than 30%, and it is not much more efficient than the element pool when used in the wizard tower, so these technologies need a lot of improvement. The energy collection method in the reactor in these materials is extremely low level, and it still uses heated water to convert energy. First, the nuclear fuel reacts to release a lot of heat, and then the water is heated. The water vapor then drives the motor to rotate, and converts the mechanical force into electricity. This energy conversion process is too complicated, and 70% of the energy is wasted. It will take a long time to solve it in the technological world, but in the eyes of wizards, the problem of energy conversion is the simplest. The rune arrays created by wizards basically have the function of collecting energy and converting energy. The energy released by elemental particles can be directly collected. Allen needs to combine the technology of the technological world in the wizard world to create the energy core he needs. The size of the element furnace cannot be too large, and the materials used for its construction also need to be selected. The element furnace needs to be resistant to high temperatures and strong enough. The radiation also needs to be removed. Allen does not want his wizard tower to be heavily radiated. Using most of the computing power in the chip to design the element furnace, Allen exchanged the dragon blood potion for 2 high-level soul crystals, said hello, and left the academy directly. Once again returning to the wizard tower, the little maid bus was taking the mermaid maid to collect potions in the ecological area. During this period, the explosive peppers have matured, and Alex and Douglas have also woken up. This time, their strength has greatly improved, and their body shapes have also changed. Alex is now 3 meters long, with a wingspan of more than 5 meters. From time to time, a touch of golden light flashes across his fiery red feathers. His current strength has exceeded that of a formal wizard, and the damage of magic flames has also become considerable. Douglas has changed even more. He looks like a red dragon, but he is not as arrogant as a red dragon. On the contrary, he has a strong curiosity about everything. His strength is similar to Alex, but he can use 2 types of dragon breath. After seeing Allen coming back, he excitedly wandered around Allen, just like a husky, rubbed Douglas's head, combed Alex's feathers a few times, and sent the little guys to play. The little maid had brought other mermaid maids around. Allen had a brief chat with them, and then silently praised the little maid's head. She trained these mermaids very well. At least this time no mermaid ran around naked. Selena also learned from this. As a wizard's maid, it is not enough to just be beautiful. Skills are still needed. At least the physical fitness must be strong and the life must be long enough. Wizards belong to the immortal species. Allen does not want to change a batch of maids in the wizard tower every 10 years. Maids like these who are beautiful, obedient, immortal, free, and capable are very useful. Bang, 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 roar. Pa pa pa, roar. A dragon roar came. Allen turned his head and looked, and laughed directly. Douglas was surrounded by a red powder. His scales, which were already red, were now bright red. His eyes were tightly closed, and tears could not stop flowing out. At the same time, he jumped up and down, sticking out his tongue, and a lot of flame spewed out of his mouth. His 2 claws kept stroking his tongue, and then he plunged into the artificial lake not far away. Douglas, this little dragon, really has the attributes of a husky. The exploding peppers picked by Biss and others looked bright red, like crystal clear rubies. This idiot wanted to try it, because it was beautiful. Biss and the mermaid maid naturally knew the effect of this exploding pepper. The strong spicy taste was so painful that it made people want to die. Moreover, it would explode directly with a slight force. A large amount of chili powder would instantly spread in the surrounding air, and the respiratory tract, eyes and even skin would have a strong irritation. So he didn't give him these exploding peppers to eat. This idiot must have thought that this was something delicious, and then he stole a few, while everyone was not paying attention. The exploding hot peppers are not meant to be eaten. Allen watched with amusement as Douglas jumped into the lake, constantly gargling his mouth and drinking water, tears, and snot running. Soon his mouth, nose, and eyes became red and swollen, and he hid in the lake with a look of grievance on his face. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304, Transforming the Demiplane. 2. With a snap of his fingers, he used the wizard's hand to lift Douglas, who had no face to see anyone. When he came closer, Allen couldn't help laughing again, and Biss and the mermaid maid also covered their mouths and laughed. Douglas's head was now bigger, and the exploding peppers irritated his head, and made it red and swollen. Allen took out a box of ointment, and gave it to Biss to apply on this idiot. After applying the ointment, Douglas finally didn't feel the burning pain. He didn't have the face to stay here any longer, and he waved his little wings, and hid in his little nest. In the wizard tower, the little maid Biss went down the stairs and soon came to the warehouse area of the wizard tower. Standing in front of the door, a red aura appeared, and the aura scanned around her. Confirm the target. Second level authority. Pass. Then, the closed door slowly opened, and a huge space appeared in front of him. There are several ways for the demigod tower spirit to identify the target. The appearance, bones, and soul fluctuations all need to be consistent before they can be opened. If it is found to be an intruder, the demigod's tower spirit will attack instantly. He took out the dimensional bag and put the necessary materials into it and returned to the laboratory. Allen was going to use several high-level soul crystals to make several steel golems. With the bonus of the artifact, Allen became more and more proficient in casting spells. The soul core was soon completed, and a large number of runes were engraved on the fist-sized crystals. After taking out the materials sent by Biss, Allen skillfully made each part and assembled them. Soon a tall steel golem puppet stood in the laboratory. He opened the chest armor and placed the soul core in it. The reserve slot was perfectly embedded with the soul core. The steel golem reached a height of 4 meters and weighed more than 1 ton. It had no neck and a square face. The chest was the most defensive part. The shoulders were connected to thick arms, which were longer than the knees. The legs were short and wide, and it looked like a gorilla. Grabbing some gem powder, Allen took out the trident. As the trident was swung, the gem powder emitted a crystal clear light, and then appeared on the surface of the steel puppet following the traces of the trident, and then a flash of light appeared, and then gradually faded away. Activate the constructed life. As Allen's spell was released, the eyes of the quietly standing golem puppet lit up, and the body began to move. With a vibration, the huge puppet golem squatted down and saluted Allen, saying, "Master. Tower Spirit number 1, infuse the data into it." "Yes, Master." Connect to the steel golem, and start importing data. With a faint golden light, the steel golem obtained the overview of the wizard tower and some combat modes. Go to the element pool to charge yourself, and then join the golem team to protect safety. "Yes, Master." A dull voice sounded, and then the steel golem left the alchemy room, and walked towards the element pool. Golems are not intelligent. They are just some elementary artificial intelligences that can work according to the designed programs. At the same time, they are controlled by the tower spirits, and the tower spirits are intelligent. In the next few days, Allen manufactured the remaining steel golems. At this time, Allen had 7 steel golems. Together with 3 teams of obsidian golems, he could already conduct a small-scale legionary battle. Allen attached his demi-plane to the wizard world, and then connected the source sea and the 4 elemental planes. The influx of a large amount of energy made this place full of vitality, and the entire demi-plane was slowly expanding. Allen planned to put the animals and plants of the material plane into the demi-plane and build it into a logistics base. However, before that, the environment of the demi-plane needed to be changed. The scope of the sea in this demi-plane was too large. After connecting to the source sea, Allen used the power of the trident to make most of the sea water recede, revealing the land, and then raise the seabed. In the end, the land area of the demi-plane reached 70%. Atlantis was also replanned. Those magnificent temples were transformed by Allen and used as his residence. At the same time, the houses in the outer city were demolished. Allen planned to use this city as the foundation of the floating city. After all, building a city from scratch not only requires huge amounts of money, but also takes decades. Allen has already checked Atlantis. The foundation of this city is quite solid, and the various infrastructures are very complete. The circular city will also maximize the control area. Allen took the time to go to the underground secret realm, directly enslaved a group of great dwarfs, and then put them into the demi-plane, asking them to transform the city according to Allen's drawings. The floating city cannot be as big as Atlantis. The larger the floating city, the more energy it consumes. The floating city in the era of the Arcane Empire is generally a medium-sized city that can accommodate an upper limit of 100,000 people, and the permanent population is 50,000. As for the large floating city with a permanent population of 300,000, it is realized by configuring several miser energy cores. So what Atlantis needs to separate is the noble area in the center. Allen built a portal between the demi-plane and the wizard tower, and can travel back and forth at will with the help of the energy of the element pool, and then plant the magic plants in the ecological park into it. The environment of the demi-plane is very simple. Many demonized plants live in a specific environment, so this place needs to be transformed. On this day, Allen prepared an altar in the demi-plane, and then took out the trident to perform the elemental summoning spell. With a burning and violent breath, the fire element channel opened, and a grumpy fire element giant responded to Allen's call. The elemental giant is already in the category of legend. As soon as it appeared, the area began to turn red, and had a tendency to magma. "What a small world," the fire giant said with a sneer. Then he looked at Allen with an extremely arrogant expression. Allen waved the trident in his hand, and the fire giant's expression froze and restrained a lot, but still said unwillingly, "It's a divine artifact, but this artifact is really ugly." Allen rolled his eyes and pretended not to hear. The fire giant continued, "Tell me, mortal, what do you want to do? Turn this world into a sea of fire? I will be happy to help you do it. Believe me, only fire is the most wonderful. According to the ancient contract, the elemental giants will respond to the call of the caster. According to the strength of the caster and the item sacrificed, there will be a corresponding elemental giant responding. If you are lucky, you may summon an elemental demigod. If your luck is good enough, you will also summon the ancient elemental spirit. Chapter 305, Transforming the Demiplane. 3. Among the 4 elemental giants, the one with the worst temper is the fire giant. If you are not strong enough to control them, sometimes they will exceed your requirements. What they often do is to take one payment and do several jobs. For example, if you need a volcano, they will give you a group of volcanoes and turn your demi-plane into a state similar to the fire elemental plane. Then they will take your reward and leave complacently, so you must be cautious when summoning element. No need. Allen rolled his eyes and continued, I need magma, geothermal energy, and volcanoes to turn this place into the continental shelf of the main material plane. Remember, I don't allow you to do anything more than what I ask. Allen said solemnly, and pointed the trident in his hand at the fire giant vaguely. The fire giant frowned, then looked at the trident and said, okay, you have the final say, mortal. The huge fire element sank into the ground. Allen turned the scanning function of the chip to the maximum, monitoring the fire giant's movements at all times. As long as he crossed the line, Allen would take action immediately. Otherwise, when he turned this half plane into a world full of magma like the fire element, Allen would be in tears. In the chip scanning, a magma pool deep underground was rapidly appearing, and the temperature underground was rising rapidly. The fire giant was bathing leisurely in the magma pool. A large number of rocks were melted into magma. The fire giant opened the passage of the fire element, and a large number of fire element poured in. The arrival of the fire element caused the temperature of this plane to rise rapidly. The underground magma layer began to expand continuously, and soon the temperature here was no different from that of the material plane. The fire giant began to surge upwards, the ground began to bulge, and a mound appeared. Then the mound continued to rise, and formed a peak. The peak stopped, after rising to more than 1,000 meters, and then a stream of thick smoke came out from the peak. Boom. A muffled thunder exploded, the rocks collapsed, and the fiery red magma gushed out. Allen snapped his fingers, a flash of light flashed, and the magma was guided to flow into a low-lying area. What a simple world. Such a little flame can't show the beauty of fire at all. Mortal, your request has been met. Give me the reward. I don't want to stay in this barren and ugly place for a quarter of an hour. The fire giant said with a dark face without squandering his power. Allen took out a fist-sized ruby. The ruby exuded a pure fire element. The fire giant's eyes lit up when he saw it. Allen gently threw the ruby over, and the fire giant opened his mouth and swallowed it directly. It chewed for a while, like eating a candy bean. Pure fire spirit. It tastes really good. Allen's eyes twitched slightly and turned his head away. Allen only had a few rubies of this quality. After sending it back to the fire giant, Allen began to adjust this new volcano. The trident was slashed directly, and a water vein appeared. The water vein followed the magma all the way, and then a valley broke out of the ground, and soon a hot spring was formed. You can come here to soak in the hot spring in the future. By the way, you should bring those mermaids with you. The magma in the volcano retreated and entered dormancy. Allen collected the volcanic ash and then opened up some land here, allowing Bis to plant heat-loving magical plants here. However, the magma here is still too small, and Allen needs to go to the elemental plane. Then he went all the way north to the northernmost end of the demi-plane. He raised the trident in his hand, and a strong elemental fluctuation appeared. A large amount of seawater gushed out, and soon formed a small ocean. After seeing that there was enough seawater, Allen stopped casting spells, and the sea surface no longer expanded. Facing a point on the seabed, several islands rose from the seabed. Allen raised the trident again, and a cold wind blew, and crystal clear snowflakes fell. The sea surface was still frozen. As the temperature got lower and lower, a large area of the sea surface froze, and finally it became an ice and snow world. In the future, magical plants that like cold will be planted here, slowly dissipating the power. Allen felt a sense of weakness. Although he had the artifact trident, he still felt tired from forcibly changing the environment. After transforming this kingdom of God that originally belonged to Poseidon, Allen finally nodded with satisfaction. Although the demi-plane is not large, it is connected to the source sea and the 4 elemental planes, and the space here will slowly expand. As for the ecological balance of the demi-plane, Allen still needs to design it further. By the way, there is one more thing to do, that is to transform the trident. This artifact is powerful, but the appearance is too ugly. I really don't know that the aesthetics of the sea god at the time were so weird. The artifact originally has the function of changing form. Allen needs to add some materials to it. Blue magic gold is a metal material with strong plasticity. After forming, it will become extremely strong. This metal is made of an alloy of many precious metals. Its main materials are abyssal magic iron, mithril and silver sand. Qualified blue magic gold is silvery white, and there will be a layer of blue light flashing on the surface. As time goes by, there will be starlight drifting. It is a very beautiful metal. Allen spent a lot of time studying this artifact. This artifact was endowed with divinity by the sea god. Although there was no existence equivalent to the spirit of the artifact, this artifact was still powerful. The whole body was made of sapphire, and there were a lot of divine runes inside. Allen scanned it with a chip, and analyzed and compared it. There were many similarities between the divine runes on it, and the spell runes used by wizards. Under the analysis of the chip, Allen quickly figured out the functions of many divine runes. Because it was just to change the shape of the trident, it was not too difficult. After finding the divine runes that maintained the shape, Allen began to work carefully. The protective divine power on the surface of the trident was removed, revealing the sapphire body. Then Allen picked up a silver white carving knife and carved on the surface of the trident. As the spiritual light rose, the trident, which was originally like a sapphire, was wrapped with silver white patterns. When it was waved, there were also some starlight flying. Allen was ready to merge the 3 spikes on it. Finally, Allen transformed the trident into a beautiful staff. The staff was 2 meters long and crystal clear. There were many silver white patterns wrapped around the staff, and a huge sapphire ball on the top of the staff. After spending several days, Allen finally completed the transformation. The power of the trident was not affected at all, but the shape became more beautiful. Picking up the staff, Allen's figure disappeared directly, and the next moment he appeared on the sea surface of the wizard world. Allen stood on the sea surface holding the staff and controlling the sea water, which was much more convenient than the trident. With a light touch, the sea water instantly pushed to both sides, revealing the seabed. Allen fell directly and then waved gently, and the sea water closed again. The sea surface returned to its original state. On the seabed, a sphere appeared around Allen's body, pushing away the surrounding sea water, and he walked around on the seabed with interest. Chapter 306 Ocean. The ocean in the wizarding world is much larger than the land. 60% of the world is covered by the ocean. The ocean is rich in species and resources. There are also many intelligent races in the ocean. The lowest level is a Warsaw fishman, also known as the kowtow fishman. This kind of fishman is ugly, has low intelligence, and is quite impressive in combat. A trained farmer can deal with several fishmen. The only advantage is probably the number of people. Since their appearance, they have been in a tribal state and have not made any progress for thousands of years. It is precisely because of their number that they have not been extinct and even have a tendency to expand. The Warsaw fishman is a robber in the sea. They like to rob passing merchant ships. There are many of them. There are often lone ships besieged by thousands of Warsaw fishmen. This kind of fishman is an omnivore. It usually feeds on algae and shellfish in the ocean, and also eats fish. Most of their weapons are bone spurs, bone spears, rusted metals, and even wooden sticks and stones. There is a layer of smooth mucus on the surface of the body, and a layer of fish scales. The defense of fish scales is equivalent to leather armor. The mucus on the surface allows them to live on land for a period of time. Among these Warsaw fishmen, there are also some with high IQ. Unlike the fishmen on one side, their wisdom reaches that of normal people and they can use some simple spells, which is equivalent to the level of 2nd level wizard apprentices to 3rd level wizard apprentices. The strongest races in the ocean should be Naga and mermaids. These 2 races live in the deep sea. Naga has a human body and a snake tail. Generally, they have 4 arms. Among them, the powerful ones have 6 arms. It is said that their king has 8 arms. Naga and the snake demon in the abyss are related by blood. It should be said that they come from the same ancestor. This is the first time that Allen has come to the bottom of the wizard world. There are many kinds of creatures here, and a large number of fish swim around him. Allen directly opened the half plane and packed up the surrounding sea fish and took them away. Although there is an ocean in the half plane, there are no creatures in the ocean. Allen does not have time to wait for him to evolve by himself for thousands of years, so catching him from the outside is the best way. Corals, seaweed, plankton, etc. were also taken away in large quantities. The staff in his hand gently rippled with spiritual light. As the spiritual light spread in the sea water, a large number of fish began to gather here. Allen opened the half plane, and the fish lined up to enter the half plane one by one. Whether it was sharks, whales or some small fish, they all waited quietly, and the whole scene looked orderly. Several dolphins circled around Allen. Allen reached out and touched their heads, and then the group of dolphins followed into the half plane. Just when Allen summoned the fish, such a big movement alarmed the races in the deep sea. In a trench more than 100 kilometers away from Allen, suddenly, a group of huge sharks swam out. These sharks were huge in size and had extremely terrifying saw teeth. If a wizard saw them, he would recognize them at a glance. This is a sawtooth shark, a demonized creature domesticated by the deep sea naga. At this time, snake-like creatures stood on the back of the shark. They have fish fins, human appearance, snake tails, and most of them have 4 arms. In their hands, a trident about 2 meters long. They are a group of naga. Royce, do you feel this power? A naga said to the petite figure behind him. This naga was much stronger than the others and had 6 arms. Taros, this power is very strong, and it makes me feel awe and submission. Unlike Royce, this naga was thin, but a strong elemental wave surrounded him. That's the feeling. If our tribe can master this power, maybe our tribe can unify the ocean and rebuild a powerful naga empire. Allen sent batches of marine creatures into the demi-plane. A large number of creatures entered, and soon the sea became lively. After sensing that the number of creatures inside reached a certain level, Allen stopped summoning and let the fish disperse. For wizards, some magical seaweed in the ocean can be used to make magic potions, and magical clams can breed magical pearls. Magic pearls can be used to make magic potions and magical items. They are very useful. Magic giant clams are also a good material. Magic corals, etc. Every year, there are special caravans to trade with the sea tribe. These things are in short supply on land. Allen plans to find some in the ocean and then cultivate them in the ocean of the half plane. Mermaids are very skilled in cultivating these marine creatures, and Allen will soon have another source of income. Turning the chip scan to the maximum, Allen soon found a coral reef. This coral reef is actually a small ecosystem where a large number of shellfish, corals, seaweed, and fish live. Allen found a lot of magical creatures here. He raised his staff and tapped it lightly. There was a roar on the seabed, and the entire coral reef was separated. As the staff was waved, a huge crack appeared, and the entire coral reef was directly collected by Allen, and then a sea area was divided in the half plane and the coral reef was placed in it. The magic clams are usually hidden in the seabed. Their appearance is very similar to the rocks on the seabed. Their size is not fixed. The small ones are only tens of centimeters, and the large ones are 2 or 3 meters. These magic clams have a good hiding effect. It is difficult to find them after the shells are closed. Allen turned on the chips scanning to the maximum, and then found a weak life reaction. The magic clams have 1 to 3 tentacles, and the bite force of the 2 shells is amazing. After discovering it, Allen broke the shell hard before opening it. There are several white pearls inside, and the pearls exude a faint elemental breath. The quality is average and the size is not big, but most of the magic pearls obtained by wizards in transactions are of this quality. Such a pearl can be sold for 5 magic stones in the academy. Allen looked at the pearls and put them away casually. He put away a few pearls casually. There is a piece of soft meat in the magic clam, and it is this piece of meat that gave birth to these pearls. He waved his hand to put the magic clam into the demi-plane, and Allen continued to wander on the seabed. It must be said that the materials in the sea are indeed rich. After transplanting the fourth coral reef to the demi-plane, Allen finally decided to leave. All the valuable things in this sea area have been packed up and taken away by Allen. He plans to go to another place to collect some more. Warning. Warning. Scanning detected a large group of creatures approaching the main body quickly. Scanning elemental fluctuations. There are spellcasters in the target. Scanning demonic beasts. There are a lot of demonic beasts in the target. Hearing the alarm of the chip, Allen raised his eyebrows slightly. Is it the sea creature? I just don't know if it is Naga or mermaid. Chapter 307 Naga. Soon, a group of black spots approached quickly. A few minutes later, a group of sawtooth sharks appeared in Allen's sight. On the back of each sawtooth shark, there was a humanoid life with 2 human heads and snake bodies holding weapons. Wizard? Royce looked at the human in front of him in surprise. Naga, a name emerged in Allen's mind when he saw the figure. The relationship between wizards and Nagas is average. Nagas are marine races. Although they can survive on land, they must return to the sea every once in a while, so there is no obvious conflict between the two sides. Wizard, why did you appear in the territory of the Son of the Sea? A Naga said, but Allen did not understand the language of the sea people. Language. A spiritual light rose, and Allen understood the strange language, but he did not notice the look of the leading Naga at Allen's staff. Respected Son of the Sea, I came here to find some demonized creatures. Allen looked at the creature in front of him curiously, but he was thinking about the body structure of the Naga and the extra hands under his ribs. Royce and Talus looked at each other. They both felt the staff in Allen's hand, the majestic power on the staff and the awe that went deep into their bones. A greedy look flashed in their eyes. They looked at each other and nodded slightly. Dear wizard, do you need magic pearls and magic corals? Royce said with a flicker in his eyes. If you have the items we need, we are willing to take them out for exchange. Allen raised his eyebrows. Dear Son of the Sea, what items do you need? Bloodline strengthening potions, magic items, weapons, armor, healing potions, etc. Royce reported the things he needed. How much is the price? Allen had a lot of these materials. If the price was right, he was ready to exchange them for some deep sea specialties. This bead in exchange for a bottle of bloodline strengthening potion, or other things of equal value. Royce took out a magic pearl and said, this magic pearl was much larger than the one Allen found, and the quality was several times better. Allen nodded in agreement, but in his heart he cursed those profiteers who were engaged in sea trade. The price of this quality of magic pearls in the academy was 120 to 150 magic stones, while a bottle of blood strengthening potion in the academy was less than 50 magic stones, which was 3 times the price. It turns out that the sea trade is still profitable. Allen complained in his heart. I agree to this price. Allen nodded without waiting for a word. Dear wizard, since you agree, then follow us to our tribe. We are just a patrol team, and don't carry much goods. Royce continued to say, when he saw Allen nod. Okay, I understand, but where is your tribe? Allen nodded and said, our tribe is not far away, in a trench ahead. Hearing Allen's agreement, Royce suppressed his joy and said, trench. Sure. Allen nodded in agreement. That's great. Royce said happily, Carl, give up your mount to this wizard, and you go with Jean. Yes, Commander. The Naga named Carl drove the sawtooth shark to Allen, and then jumped down gently. Dear wizard, please. Thank you. Allen thanked him, and then jumped onto the broad back of the sawtooth shark. This was the first time Allen had seen this kind of demonic beast in the ocean. Its body was very similar to that of a shark, but it was much larger, 15 meters long, and its huge mouth was filled with serrated teeth. Allen knew its bite force was amazing without having to try. This shark was very fast in the water, and was a powerful demonic beast. The Naga was able to tame this demonic beast as a mount, and it seemed that they had many secrets. Sir Wizard, my name is Royce, and I'm the guard leader of the Raging Waves tribe. It is an honor to invite you to our tribe for trade. Sir Royce, it is a pleasure to meet you. I'm Allen Farkus, and you can just call me Allen. Allen nodded. Then I will call you Allen, and you don't need to call me sir. Now we are friends. Royce said cheerfully. Friends? Of course, friends. Royce said. Allen nodded with a smile. The whole journey was calm, and the group of Nagas surrounded Allen in the middle. Allen just glanced and continued to observe the sawtooth shark under him. Soon everyone came to a trench, which was nearly 1 kilometer wide. A huge palace could be seen below. The palace was protected by an energy shield and could not be passed from above. Allen followed the naga to the entrance. Royce took out an exquisite conch and blew it gently. A dull conch sound rang out, and then a small door opened on the barrier, and a naga walked out. "Commander, welcome back. Morris, open the door. I brought a respected wizard this time. He is here to trade with us." Royce nodded and said, "I'm sorry, Commander, he can't come in without the permission of the tribe leader." Morris looked at Royce with some embarrassment. "I know, I will explain to the tribe leader later. Mr. Allen is a friend of our aging tribe. It is very rude to turn away friends," Royce said solemnly. "But," Morris looked at Allen hesitantly. Allen looked at the surrounding environment as if nothing had happened and didn't care about their conversation. "No buts, go open the door," Royce interrupted directly, glared at Morris and said, "Okay." Morris gritted his teeth, then nodded reluctantly, took out a conch, and blew it gently, and the energy barrier quietly opened a circular exit. "Mr. Allen, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting for so long." Royce came to Allen and said, "No need to apologize, we are friends." Allen smiled and said he didn't care. "Yes, we are friends." Royce showed an inexplicable look in his eyes, nodded and said, "Then let's go in." After that, he made a gesture of invitation and walked in with Allen. As soon as he entered the energy barrier, Allen clearly felt that the concentration of element here was much higher than that of the outside world. In front of him was a city gate. Through the city gate, there were houses full of exotic styles in the distance. The residents here used corals and demonized giant clams to build houses. The tribe was not big and seemed to be able to accommodate 2,000 people. In the middle was a tall palace. The style of the palace was very strange. It was supported by the ribs of a huge sea beast and inlaid with many demonized pearls and various gems. Chapter 308 Naga 2. "Sir Allen, I need to report to the clan leader first. Please go and rest for a while." Allen nodded to show his understanding. "Carl, take Sir Allen to rest first," Royce ordered, and then he said hello to Allen and walked towards the palace in the middle with a naga. Allen was taken to a room full of exotic style. This house built entirely of shellfish, corals and seaweed made him feel very fresh. "Sir Allen, please live here first. If you need anything, just tell me. I will wait outside the door." Carl left the supplies after seeing Allen nodded in agreement and then stood guard at the door. The furnishings in the room were simple and Allen sat directly on a stool that looked a bit strange. Chip. Scan the surrounding environment. An invisible light wave spread, and soon a translucent screen appeared in front of Allen's eyes. Allen obviously found that there were no less than 10 people monitoring him outside his room. Looking outside the door, Allen closed his eyes, and countless data gathered in his mind. Point scanning the space barrier. Scanning the magic band rune. Scanning the water element enhancement. The difficulty of casting space spells has doubled. The difficulty of casting spells has doubled. Simple host, leave as soon as possible. It seems that I'm not very welcome here. Allen looked at the energy barrier covering the entire tribe with an inexplicable expression. Tower Spirit number 1. Start remote control. The silver white rune instantly lit up in Allen's spiritual space, and the floating tower thousands of miles away suddenly opened. Under the control of Tower Spirit number 1, the element pool was quickly charged. Wizard Tower remote control started. Element pool charging completed. Protective barrier started. Floating ring started. Bottom connection structure separated. 9-ring tower. Lift off. Boom. After a violent vibration, smoke filled the air, and the wizard tower slowly lifted off. Target locked. 173.184. Lock the tower master's position. Tower Spirit number 1. What happened? Biss looked up and asked after noticing the movement. Master calling. The cold mechanical voice of the tower spirit sounded. A huge floating tower was moving rapidly in the sky, and the huge wind pressure crushed the surrounding clouds. After Allen saw the floating tower take off, he stopped paying attention and just asked the tower spirit to rush to the designated location to wait for orders. After Allen stayed in the house for a while, a pair of Naga warriors came over, led by Royce. Sir Allen, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. Our clan leader has agreed to the deal and is now waiting in the hall. Royce greeted him and invited him. The clan leader has prepared a sumptuous banquet. Now please come with me, Sir Allen. The clan leader agreed. That's great. He even prepared a banquet. How enthusiastic. Allen said politely, since the team leader is already waiting there, let's go over quickly. After all, it's very rude to keep people waiting for a long time. Allen walked out of the house and, accompanied by a group of Naga warriors, rushed to the hall in the middle. As soon as he entered the hall, Allen saw a tall figure sitting on the main seat. This female Naga had a strong body, a lot of tattoos on her skin, a snake tail coiled, dark blue scales flashing with metallic luster, 6 thick arms on her body, and a pair of small flesh buds under her ribs, which should be the location where the 4th pair of arms grew. After seeing Allen coming in, she directly invited Allen to sit next to her. After everyone sat down, a group of waiters brought up a lot of fish and something that looked like seaweed, and then there was a lot of rambling. Allen asked the chip to scan the food and found no problems, then took a piece to try. A fishy smell filled his mouth, and the fish meat had some sweetness, which tasted okay. After several Nagas looked at each other, one of them who didn't know him said, Sir Allen, I wonder what goods you brought this time. Allen smiled slightly, took out several kinds of supplies that the Nagas needed, and put them on the table, and a waiter delivered them to other Nagas. I still have a lot of this quality. We can trade these things as well. Don't you know, if you want to trade the staff in Lord Allen's hand? A Naga stared at the staff in Allen's hand. Staff? You want this? Allen raised the staff in his hand with a mocking smile on his face. Yes. I wonder what Lord Allen is going to exchange for. The Naga stared at the staff flashing with blue light with fiery eyes. I'm afraid you can't afford the price. Allen withdrew his hand expressionlessly. Why? Lord Allen is worried that we can't afford it? It's just a staff. Even if it's a little expensive, how precious can it be? How can my angry wave tribe not even afford this little money, or Lord Allen doesn't want to sell it? As the voice fell, the atmosphere in the hall became subtle. Are you planning to force his sale? Allen looked at the Naga in front of him with some amusement. They regarded him as a soft persimmon that could be manipulated at will. Forced sale? If you don't hand over the staff today, you may not be able to leave this sea area. Another Naga said directly. Allen finally confirmed that this group of Nagas did not want to trade from the beginning, but came for the artifact of the sea god. It seems that they are very familiar with the power of the sea god. Are you going to rob? Sir Allen, I advise you to leave the staff that belongs to our sea clan. In our clan's raging wave barrier, your wizard strength can't be exerted much, and the space barrier here has been locked by us. You can't escape at all. If you cooperate honestly, return our clan's things to us, and tell us where you got this thing, we will let you go. Otherwise, your wizard's journey will end here. Another Naga stood up and shouted directly. Also, the demonized dolphin fish tasted good, didn't it? That kind of food is very precious. After eating it, it can strengthen the blood. However, it also has some side effects. That is, after eating it, you will be in a state of sleep for a day, which is conducive to the blood absorbing energy. He looked at Allen with a smile and said, you want to delay time, but it's useless. Is this what you rely on? Allen shook his head with a disappointed look. No wonder you can only hide in this dark trench and play some conspiracies and tricks. Don't waste time talking to him, just take him down. Royce gave a direct order, and the waiters around rushed up. Chapter 309 Son of Dagon. Hey, who gave you the courage to plot against the wizard? Allen sneered. If fighting with more people is useful, why would I learn magic? Group monster immobilization spell. Strong spell. A ray of light flashed across the sky, freezing the dozen or so Nagas around him in place, without any reluctance on Allen's face. Impossible. How can you cast a spell in the raging waves barrier? Seeing Allen cast a spell easily, the Nagas, who had been proud of themselves, changed their faces. Nothing is impossible. Isn't it just a low-level forbidden magic barrier? You still want to trap me? Allen pouted and said disdainfully. Don't you want this staff? Then I'll show you. Monster domination spell. Strong spell. As the light of light spread, the dozen or so Naga servants who were originally immobilized began to move again, but this time their target was not Allen. The Naga with dull eyes rushed directly to the other Nagas around. Some Nagas who were caught off guard had no time to dodge and were killed by their own people in an instant. Then, this group of Nagas with dull eyes attacked other Nagas nearby crazily. Guards, kill them quickly and take the scepter from me. The Naga chieftain who was sitting in the main seat gave the order directly. The Naga warriors who had been prepared for a long time waved their weapons and rushed forward. The group of controlled Nagas were no match for them at all. They soon fell to the ground one after another, and the light blue blood flowed in the hall. How ruthless. These are your own people. Kill them without mercy. Allen's mocking voice sounded. They have been controlled by you. Killing them is to help them get rid of it. Now you need to be buried with them. The Naga chieftain said coldly and stiffly. Whirlpool strangulation. Ice arrow technique. Frost ray. Vertigo technique. A vortex suddenly appeared beside Allen, and the strong force tore his body apart. The force seemed to want to dismember him. At the same time, a large number of ice arrows flew towards him. Don't you realize that the power in the staff can easily suppress you? Allen smiled slightly, and the staff in his hand instantly burst out with a powerful energy wave. Instantly broke all the spells cast by the Naga. Spell dismiss. Artifact power. Ice storm. Spell extreme effect. An extremely large-scale ice storm instantly formed, directly covering the other people in the hall, and then countless ice crystals and ice spikes instantly burst out, and a large number of Nagas were directly dismembered. Go to the sticks to repent. Allen said coldly. Go wake him up. Faced with Allen's strength, the Naga chief finally realized that their strength was no match for Allen, and shouted directly, remove the seal. Wake up, deep sea beast. Several Naga elders took out a conch and blew it hard. Their originally strong bodies began to lose weight visibly, and their breath dropped rapidly. In a breath, they became like candles in the wind, as if a gust of wind could blow them out. Woo woo. The dull sound of the conch spread quickly, and Allen felt uneasy. The staff in his hand flashed one after another, and blue ice cones flew out in an instant, nailing several Naga elders to the ground. Too late. You are definitely not a match for him, said a Naga elder, staring at Allen, and then died. Allen frowned, and a big hand appeared out of thin air, directly grabbing the Naga chief who was about to escape. Let me go. Let me go. You damn human. Feeling her struggle, Allen snapped his fingers, and the blue hand instantly tightened, and a sound of bones rubbing could be heard. He waved his hand to grab her, and Allen pointed his finger directly at her forehead. Dominate the monster. Speaking of this, what is that he? Allen asked directly. He is. Naga was struggling and unwilling to speak. Allen frowned slightly, and another flash of inspiration came to him. Psychic suggestion. Tell me, what is he? He is the deep sea monster sealed in ancient times by our aging waves tribe. He is the descendant of the evil god. Descendant of the evil god. Allen's heart trembled, and he felt more and more uneasy. What does he look like? I don't know. I haven't seen him. The Naga chief said with a dull face. How can you control him? We can't control him, but he hates Poseidon, and will take revenge on anyone who is related to Poseidon. Damn it, it can't be that kind of thing. Allen's face was gloomy, and he threw the Naga out directly, and with a little force on his huge palm, he broke its neck directly. Ignoring the Naga running away, Allen came directly to the energy barrier. The staff in his hand shone brightly, and then gently tapped the energy barrier in front of him. The barrier flickered for a while, and a lot of ripples shook. After a while, there was a click, and the barrier in front of him shattered directly like a glass cover. Allen's figure flashed out of the barrier, and the energy barrier slowly recovered. Roar. At this moment, a dull roar came from the trench. Then the seabed was churning, and huge vibrations came, and rocks on both sides of the trench kept falling. A large number of bubbles kept coming out, and an extremely chaotic and crazy breath came out. The surrounding sea water was turbulent, and a huge whirlpool soon appeared. A large number of Nagas were directly sucked into it without any resistance. Then, a stream of water sprayed up from the bottom of the sea, and a huge oppressive black shadow slowly emerged in the deep sea. The power of the sea god. Hate. Seal me. I want to kill you. A strange and dull voice sounded, mixed with the syllables of demon language. If Allen was not proficient in demon language, he would not be able to distinguish it at all. A huge tentacle shot out and appeared instantly, and then wrapped around Allen, trying to pull him directly into the deep sea. Freeze ray. Spell power. In an instant, a blue light flew out from Allen's staff and hit the tentacle directly. A large amount of seawater froze instantly, and the huge tentacle was directly frozen. Allen stepped lightly, and his figure instantly moved away from the tentacles like a fish. Just after Allen left, the frozen tentacles finally broke the ice, and then smashed hard at the place where Allen was just now. Tentacles with suction cups stretched out from the trench one after another, and Allen's face changed. He waved the staff gently, and the light blue divine power instantly entered his body. A flash of light passed by, and the surrounding seawater was completely controlled by Allen at this moment. He raised his hand lightly, and countless seawater instantly spun, and water knives continued to appear. The seawater directly grabbed these tentacles, and then the water knives spun rapidly. In a few breaths, countless wounds appeared, and some of the serious injuries were directly cut off. Chapter 310 Son of Dagon 2. Roar. An angry roar came directly from the bottom of the sea. A large number of tentacles waved, streams of water shot out, and blue blood spread on the bottom of the sea. A name emerged in Allen's mind. Dagon. Dagon, the deep sea demon. The king of deep sea demons. The mortal enemy of the sea god. The master of the shadow sea of the 89th layer of the bottomless abyss. One of the few deep sea demon beasts in the entire multiverse. He rules those creatures living under the deep sea of the dark sea, and the demon lords who have existed since the first generation of demons ruled. Shadow of the sea, lord of the sea and sea monsters. As one of the most powerful demon lords, Dagon lives in the trench of the abyss sea. Ishal. It looks like a hybrid of fish, mollusk and moray eel. Dagon's descendants, such as the insidious manta ray and the terrifying deep diver, often dive into the ocean of the main material world at its instruction, to serve as its priests. In some planes, Dagon's cult is prevalent in coastal areas. Its human or swamp giant, sea giant, followers mate with half-fish creatures, tainting their own blood in exchange for the demon lord's gift of rich catches and exotic gold jewelry. And this giant beast in the trench is likely to be the descendant of Dagon. Dagon and Poseidon are mortal enemies. As long as they meet, they will fight to the death. This deep sea monster is likely to be the descendant of Dagon, who was sealed by the followers of Poseidon in ancient times. With a roar, huge waves rose on the sea, and the surrounding islands were submerged in these waves. With the spread of the blasphemous power, countless tentacles began to appear. A pair of dark red eyes stared at Allen from the deep sea. Son of Dagon. Allen looked solemn. He didn't expect that there would be such an evil monster in the wizard world. A large number of mysterious rune rays emerged on Allen's wizard robe, and a strong spell fluctuation emerged in Allen's body. A powerful bloodline power was instantly activated from the body. Dragon vein transformation, half dragon transformation. Allen's body quickly rose and expanded like a balloon. Muscles bulged, and dark red dragon scales grew rapidly. Swish. The huge dragon wings spread open, and spectacular and gorgeous magic auras burst out from its body, stirring the surrounding seawater. The dim seawater was illuminated at this moment. Advanced spell sequence activated. Advanced energy protection. Advanced mind protection. Advanced cat grace. Advanced bull power. Advanced acceleration. Dragon scale leather armor, dragon power, weakness insight. Combat casting assistant activated. Floating tower ready. Element pool charging. Remote connection activated. Dense magic auras appeared on Allen's body one after another, and the invisible force field directly pushed away the surrounding seawater. The great wizard robe on his body was removed from the disguise and restored to its gorgeous red appearance. A large amount of data jumped rapidly in Allen's eyes. The chip processed all the surrounding data and presented them in front of him. Scan target. Species, demon species, ancient demon. Size, super large sea monster. Degree of danger, extremely high. The target has divinity. Possessing absolute power to suppress. Possessing legendary combat power. Possessing advanced regeneration. Possessing true vision. Possessing blasphemous domain. Possessing advanced dispelling spell. Possessing advanced teleportation. Just as Allen released all his strength to prepare for battle, the son of Dagon in the trench felt a crisis. his huge body began to quickly get rid of the seal, and a large number of tentacles danced wildly. With a huge roar, the deep sea demon that had been sealed for thousands of years completely got rid of the seal. Enemy. Poseidon's lackey. I want to kill you. Tentacles shot out quickly and madly pulled towards Allen. Allen raised the staff in his hand high, and a large amount of sea water instantly turned into ice, blocking all the tentacles. Seeing that the tentacles were useless, the son of Dagon stared at Allen with crazy and greedy eyes. In an instant, a powerful space wave came. Advanced teleportation. A huge black shadow instantly appeared near Allen, and the next moment it pressed towards Allen. Exile. A flash of light instantly appeared, exiling the huge body of the son of Dagon to the gap between time and space, but due to its huge body and tyrannical strength, this spell could only last for a few seconds. Teleportation. A flash of light flashed, and the next moment Allen had already distanced himself again. Just as Allen's figure had just disappeared, Dagon's huge body appeared again. A huge amount of seawater was instantly pushed away, and huge waves rose on the sea surface, and countless whirlpools and undercurrents appeared here. Advanced Dispel spell. Dimension Anchor. For a moment, Allen and the son of Dagon shot out a flash of light at the same time, and the magic shield on Allen's body suddenly disappeared, and a space coordinate was left on the son of Dagon. Compared with Allen, the space spell of the son of Dagon came from his bloodline, and his understanding of space was not as good as Allen. After being hit by the dimensional anchor, it was basically impossible for him to use teleportation again. Blasphemy. Dissociation. The tentacles on the son of Dagon shook violently, then broke and fell, and then healed quickly. Enchantment. Allen's brain was dizzy, and then the brilliant aura on his body suddenly burst out, and his figure disappeared in an instant, and then a terrifying tentacle hit Allen's position just now. Dagon has an enchantment spell, which can forcibly control all life around. Allen's mental protection was broken directly after a little resistance. The high-level accident spell on the Archmage's robe was instantly activated, and a large number of spells were released instantly, and Allen was directly teleported. After getting rid of control, Allen re-enchanted mental protection and iron will. Seeing Allen's figure appear in the distance, Dagon quickly pounced on him, and the huge tentacles were blessed with an extremely chaotic power, which was the power of entropy. Allen's spells were quickly eroded by the power of entropy. Allen's eyes tightened, and the staff in his hand burst out with powerful force in an instant. At this moment, the entire sea area was under his control, and a huge amount of seawater madly squeezed the huge son of Dagon. The seawater that was originally at his fingertips was instantly out of his control, and the seawater seemed to have turned into steel and squeezed madly. A large number of tentacles were squeezed and exploded one after another, and the deep blue blood spread into the seawater. With a loud bang, the seawater exploded, and Allen released his control over the seawater. With the power of the artifact, he controlled this sea area in an instant, but Allen could not use this power for a long time. Coupled with Dagon's crazy resistance, just a few breaths made his headache worse. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311 Son of Dagon 3. Summon the demons. Countless broken tentacles turned to ashes, and the son of Dagon sacrificed them directly. An evil force rose instantly. A black beam of light cut through the sky and entered the sea. The next moment, demon creatures with chaotic breath appeared one by one. These seemed to be smaller Dagons. They looked like a combination of fish and tentacles. After they appeared, they rushed towards Allen frantically. More than people, right? Allen glanced at the demons that appeared, and the energy in his body burst out instantly, and a violent elemental fluctuation was released from the staff. Water element summon. Artifact power, element channel super magic skill spell enhancement water element plane summon water element. Rumble. The waves instantly rose tens of meters high, and a huge blue channel appeared. Then countless water element responded to Allen's call. With the artifact of Poseidon, he could summon a large number of water element. Allen directly used spells this time, and countless water element elders and giant water element came to the material plane. Crush them. I'm willing to serve you. The favored one of Poseidon, the leading water element elder, responded. Accompanied by the raging waves, the group of water element rushed directly into the battle group and directly submerged the demons summoned by the son of Dagon. Although Allen can use this artifact of the sea god, many of its abilities cannot be brought into full play. This artifact created by Poseidon has a powerful force in the ocean, and can summon a whole group of water element. Coupled with Allen's super magic skills, there are more than 20 water element elders who appeared this time, and the rest are all giant water element. The size of the water element elders is as high as 15 meters. Although they are not as big as Dagon, they are like adult strong men and children compared to the summoned demons. With the addition of water element, the demon army that was just full of moral was defeated in a breath. These water element elders with a challenge level close to legendary are proficient in all water spells, and they are on the sea, so their power is greatly enhanced. As an ancient demon in the multiverse, Dagon has survived longer than many ancient gods. Countless huge beasts in the deep sea are his believers. His believers have extremely strong regeneration abilities, and it is very difficult to kill him completely. He has mastered the power of entropy, a power of extreme chaos, that is highly corrosive. As the battle intensified, more and more demons were torn apart, and many water element were eroded by the power of entropy, then directly shattered and separated from the main material plane. They would be resurrected in the water elemental plane. Welcome to the power of the waves. The wrath of the ocean. A huge vortex appeared. Affected by the power of blasphemy and entropy, the water element also became violent, venting their anger directly on the demons. The ocean has been dyed red with blood, and a large amount of chaotic power is everywhere. Allen frowned. If this place is not dealt with, it is likely to be used by the son of Dagon to summon demons again. The staff in his hand released a dazzling light, and then a sacred power burst out. This is the power of the artifact itself. Ocean purification. Artifact power. The sacred power of the ocean instantly enveloped the sea area, and the son of Dagon's blasphemous domain was instantly squeezed out, leaving only the area around his body. Countless chaotic forces of the abyss turned into black gas, and dissipated under the purification of the ocean's divine power. Many water element polluted by the power of entropy were also purified by this divine power, and restored to their original state. The sea returned to its azure state. Sea god. The power of the sea god. Hatred. I want revenge. The voices of the abyss and the aquatic language rang out. Facing Allen, who was firing at full power, the hatred and anger that had been sealed for thousands of years made him have no intention of retreating. The huge tentacles shot out directly, pulling the two giant water element apart directly, but the water element did not die. The sea water quickly gathered, and a slightly smaller water element appeared in the original place. Under the leadership of the water element elders, a large number of water element eliminated all the demons summoned by the son of Dagon around them, and then began to besiege the son of Dagon with Allen. The huge son of Dagon was not afraid. His huge number of tentacles made him not afraid of siege at all. His advanced regeneration allowed him to recover quickly. His huge body had a desperate vitality. The elders of the water element did not have a very strong attack ability, which was much worse than the fire element. However, in the sea water, the power of the fire element could not be exerted at all. The spells that Allen could cast now had limited lethality to the huge son of Dagon. At this time, if he learned the meteorite spell of the prophecy system, he might be able to summon a large enough meteorite to kill him with one blow. The current situation is that Allen and the elders of the water element have been suppressing Dagon, but Dagon, who is thick-skinned and tough, is not afraid at all. These injuries can only cause him some minor injuries. His own advanced regeneration drags this battle into a war of attrition. If Allen's mana is consumed too much, it is very likely that he will run away. Tower Spirit number 1. Report your location. The Wizard Tower is 729 kilometers away from the battlefield. It is expected to reach the battlefield in 10 minutes. What is the maximum distance of long-range strikes now? Allen asked directly. Long-range strikes can be carried out, but according to the analysis of combat data, the power of the super energy particle magic cannon will gradually weaken if the distance is too far, and the current distance cannot guarantee that the target will be killed in one shot. The mechanical and stiff voice of the tower spirit sounded in Allen's mind. Damn it, the super energy particle magic cannon needs to be improved. Allen made a decision in his heart. What is the longest distance that a long-range extreme strike can ensure to kill the target? 500 kilometers. The cold mechanical voice responded quickly. Then get closer. 400 kilometers. Reach a range of 400 kilometers from the battlefield and directly charge and carry out tactical strikes. Allen made a decision in an instant. Yes, sir. With an order, the element pool in the wizard tower began to charge. Start the astronomical observatory. Activate long-range tactical support strikes. Turn on long-range strike combat assistance. Calculate the gravity of the planet. Calculate the strike trajectory. Calculate the energy offset. Data correction. Lock the target position. Calculate the lead time parameters. Light golden light continued to rise in the control center, and a large amount of data began to be calculated frantically. The computing speed of the demigod level tower spirit has surpassed Allen's chip. As a demigod tower spirit with a divine body, his computing ability has become extremely exaggerated. However, all the influencing factors were calculated in a breath. A tactical strike was ready. As the energy of the elemental pool continued to flow into the super energy particle magic cannon, a powerful force slowly began to gather, and the wizard tower flew quickly, getting closer and closer to the designated location. Chapter 312 Son of Dagon 4. The wind was howling, the waves were surging, and the element around were in chaos. For a wizard, if he appeared in such an environment rashly, he might die. The surrounding elemental particles were completely chaotic, and low-level spellcasters could not cast spells here at all. This has become an elemental chaos area, and it will only gradually return to normal after a period of calm. The battle between Allen and the Son of Dagon turned this sea area into a GD. The creatures in the ocean had already fled, and those who did not escape were all buried in the sea. Fortunately, this is a deep sea. If it is a shallow sea close to the mainland, that tsunami formed by the huge amount of fighting can completely submerge and destroy the coastline for dozens of kilometers. In the distant sea, another group of Nagasan mermaids looked at the fight in the sea ahead with fear, and this destructive power made them tremble. Their eyes could not cross the sea area of more than 10 kilometers, but the aftermath of the battle alone was not something they could resist. The huge body of the Son of Dagon kept churning, and Allen controlled the sea water to attack continuously, and even cooperated with the Elder of the Water element to throw it out of the water directly. Until this moment, the body of this deep sea demon was completely exposed in front of Allen. The fish body, the abdomen was covered with huge tentacles, and the sharp teeth floated on the sea like an island. What is that? Dagon. The many sea creatures standing in the distance watching the battle stuttered and looked at the huge figure. As sea creatures, they knew the meaning of Dagon very well. No, this should be his offspring. That monster can't appear in the material world. Even if it is our offspring, we can't fight it. Who is the one fighting him? I don't know, but you all feel it. That is the power of the sea god. The sea creatures looked at each other. The battle that happened here today made them terrified. If the strong man who used the power of the sea god was defeated, what awaited them might be massacre and enslavement. Rumble. A wave of huge waves rolled, and many of the tentacles of the Son of Dagon had been torn off, leaving only the largest tentacles still attacking. The pain in his body and his hatred for the sea god made him more and more manic. As the Son of Dagon, he was greatly influenced by Dagon. At this point in the battle, the two sides were already fighting to the death. Most of the water elements summoned by Allen had disappeared, leaving only a few water element elders still attacking, and the other elemental planes that had been broken and returned many times. Alarm. Alarm. High-level wizard armor is broken. Scanning detected strong psychic fluctuations. The target is about to release psychic attack. Along with the alarm of the chip, a ray of light instantly rose, and the gorgeous wizard robe flashed with a ray of light. High-level psychic protection instantly appeared on Allen's surface. Then a wave of energy instantly radiated from the Son of Dagon to the surroundings. This range attack could not be avoided at all and could only be resisted. A feeling of dizziness came, and Allen's body did not stop at all and appeared in another position the next moment. At this time, the battle had lasted for a long time. As time passed, Allen's abundant mana began to weaken. All the magic equipment on his body had been activated, and the Son of Dagon was still full of energy. Although his attack could not hurt Allen, he would definitely not lose if he continued to consume. At this time, the Son of Dagon still had several layers of spiritual energy barriers on his body, and Allen had broken more than 20 layers during this period. The huge body was covered with dense wounds, but compared to his huge body, these were just ordinary injuries. From time to time, sharp roars came from the terrifying big mouth, and this sonic attack constantly harassed Allen. The light around Allen's body was a little dim. Hundreds of kilometers away, thousands of meters high in the sky, the wizard tower finally arrived at the scheduled location, and a spiritual light rose in Allen's spiritual sea. Master, the wizard tower has arrived at the scheduled location. Allen sensed the wizard tower in the distance, and his whole spirit was shocked. The somewhat dim spiritual light burst out with dazzling light again. Finally, Son of Dagon, your death is coming. Allen's figure jumped directly into the sky, and the staff in his hand burst into dazzling brilliance. The powerful divine power instantly filled his body, and mysterious runes emerged around him. Then the staff pointed at the huge deep sea monster below. Ice Cage. Powerful spell power of Poseidon. The sea water below instantly turned into solid ice, which firmly trapped the huge body of the Son of Dagon. Thick and sharp ice spikes pierced deeply into his body. The Son of Dagon screamed miserably, and his huge body kept struggling to break free from the cage. However, the ice cage cast by the power of Poseidon was extremely strong, and a lot of blood flew. The Son of Dagon was completely restricted. At the same time, in the sky 400 kilometers away, the cold mechanical sound of Tower Spirit number 1 sounded. Lock the space coordinates. Lock the target creature. The element pool is fully charged. Super energy particle magic cannon type I. Fire. The entire wizard tower shook slightly. A dazzling beam of light shot out from the sky, and at this moment the sky seemed to be cut in half. The dazzling light could be seen in this sea area. The light flashed and disappeared, and a violent energy beam passed by, and the surrounding elemental energy was agitated, leaving an obvious trace. Allen looked at the flash of light in the distance, and the next moment it directly hit the huge body of the Son of Dagon. Boom. A violent explosion sounded, and the seawater raised at tsunami tens of meters high. Tens of thousands of tons of seawater in the center of the explosion were pushed away, and the seabed was exposed at this moment. Allen gently waved the scepter, and the seawater instantly separated to both sides, and the seawater around the Son of Dagon was completely separated, and the powerful energy was all concentrated on his body. After a violent explosion, the spiritual light mist was all dispersed. The entire sea area fell into silence at this moment, and a huge deep pit appeared on the seabed. The surrounding seawater was pushed away by Allen, and the seawater did not provide protection for him. There was a terrible through wound on the body of the Son of Dagon, which directly penetrated his body from his head. The deep pit on the seabed has become a glass-like crystal. The Son of Dagon is on the verge of death. The huge tentacles are twitching unconsciously, and most of the blood in his body has been evaporated. In Allen's perception, the breath of the Son of Dagon is rapidly fading. Just when his life force was about to run out, and he was about to die, a powerful soul force emerged, and the next moment, the soul of the Son of Dagon wanted to escape directly from the material plane. However, he was not a soul descending, so the soul did not leave the main material plane directly. Allen's staff burst out a golden light, instantly hitting the soul of the Son of Dagon. Chapter 313 Son of Dagon 5. Still want to run? Have you asked me? Allen looked at the soul of the Son of Dagon in front of him, and pointed his staff. As the Son of Dagon, the notorious demon and evil god in the multiverse, they will not die so easily. As long as the soul returns to the shadow sea of the 89th floor of the bottomless abyss, they will be resurrected soon. Allen does not want the demon that he killed with so much effort to be resurrected. Moreover, as the Son of Dagon, he also has divinity in him, which can be said to be the most precious thing in him. Soul binding. Sealing technique. Several flashes of light flashed in succession, and the staff in Allen's hand emitted a dazzling brilliance, and powerful divine power swept out instantly. The golden energy instantly tore the soul of the son of Dagon, completely extinguishing his idea of escaping. The huge soul began to entangle constantly, and the son of Dagon struggled frantically to get rid of it. He knew clearly that, if the soul was caught, what awaited him was complete death. Countless soul tentacles were torn off, and the huge soul kept wailing, but Allen was unmoved, holding the staff, and concentrating on manipulating it. An egg-sized pure diamond flew out of Allen's pocket, and flew directly over the soul of the son of Dagon. The huge soul began to be slowly absorbed by the diamond. Although the son of Dagon died, his soul still had a good strength. Looking at the slow progress, Allen frowned slightly. Divine power chain. Golden chains flew out from the staff. This was the power of the artifact. The chain instantly locked the soul of the son of Dagon, and then began to move slowly and firmly into the diamond. He struggled and roared madly, begging for mercy, threatening, and intimidating. Allen looked at the soul of the son of Dagon expressionlessly. The weak soul could not change his situation at all. Finally, he let out a desperate hiss, and was completely sealed in the gem. One by one, the chains of divine power dissipated and returned to the staff. The divine crystal with golden light gently fell into Allen's hand. He turned his palm and put it away. The next thing to deal with was a huge corpse below. Allen took out a crystal bottle to collect some blood, ready to keep for a search. Then a golden light radiated, and the remaining blood evaporated quickly. If the blood was not processed, it would soon be swallowed by other marine creatures. At that time, a large number of creatures with demon blood would appear. In this period, a demon lord might be born. A large amount of blood melted rapidly under the irradiation of golden light, and soon all the blood disappeared. Then he took out a silver white carving knife, summoned several wizards' hands, and began to quickly divide the body of the son of Dagon. Then peel the skin and remove the bones. The skin of this demon is very tough, almost as tough as dragon skin, and its energy conductivity is also very high. It is a top grade material for making wizard robes. Flesh and blood are not very useful. There is a strong corrosive energy on it. Only some black wizards who want to obtain blood or die like it. They like to use the flesh and blood of various monsters to make potions. Although the effect is amazing, this kind of potion often has strong side effects. Allen directly burns it all with elemental fire. Bones can be used to make staffs, and they are hard, and have good magic conductivity. Allen even wants to use these bones to make a skeleton golem. This is the craftsmanship of his mentor Banda. The stronger the bones, the stronger the skeleton golem. This skeleton of the son of Dagon is matched with some rare materials. Allen is confident that he can make a legendary skeleton golem, but it still lacks a legendary soul core. After collecting the spoils, Allen flew directly into the air. The moment he left, the seawater directly submerged this place. After a turbulence, the sea surface returned to calm. With a flash of his figure, Allen appeared directly on the astrological platform of the floating tower. "Master, are you okay?" The little maid finally let go of her anxious heart after seeing Allen's figure. The mermaid maid was waiting here with her, and immediately surrounded Allen when she saw him appear. Allen leaned his body directly on Biz's increasingly majestic chest, then arched his body hard, and found a comfortable position. The other mermaids quickly moved the soft couch over. Allen hugged Biz, and lay down directly on it. Several mermaids gathered around him, and their soft and boneless hands massaged Allen back and forth. "I'm so tired. Tower spirit number 1. Return directly," Allen said with a tired look. "The movement here has alarmed many people. Such a strong energy fluctuation has lasted for so long. Even if the wizards are blind and deaf, they can sense it. However, this place is far away from the mainland, and they can't get here in a short time." As for the surrounding sea creatures, they had been watching when Allen and the son of Dagon were fighting. In the end, Allen won, and these people didn't dare to appear in front of him. Looking at the calm sea, many sea creatures hiding in the distance began to approach slowly. The battle was finally over. The last horrible blow made them feel a fear from the depths of their souls. But then came joy, because the son of Dagon was dead. If the son of Dagon won, then they would need to consider escaping. Coming to the center of the battlefield, the seabed here has become riddled with holes. The original trench collapsed directly, and the width of the trench was expanded several times, replaced by a huge deep pit. The expected corpse was not left, and in the end, the group of sea creatures had no harvest, and had to leave. In the next week, a large number of wizards came to this sea area to search, and many wizards entered the seabed, but they did not find any valuable discoveries except for the horrible traces of battle. Southeast Sea, Salt Island, Port Callan. When Allen's floating tower fell again, it was just night here, and Port Callan was unaware of the legendary battle that took place in the sea thousands of miles away. Allen had fallen asleep in the arms of many maids. This battle was a protracted one. Although the physical consumption was not great, the mental and mana consumption made him very tired. If it were not for the Red Dragon bloodline, he would have run out of mana and mental strength, and been killed by the son of Dagon. Many mermaid maids began to prepare food. Allen needed to replenish his energy after consuming a lot of food. Most of these mermaids were now wizard apprentices. Only Selena, the leader, had reached the level of a formal wizard. They were proficient in illusion and water element. They had no talent for other types of spells, but they had a high talent for the subject of magic cooking. After Allen taught them a few simple magic dishes, their cooking skills far surpassed Allen, and even Biseo was inferior to them. P.S. Thanks to Silent Zangai for the 100 starting coins reward. Chapter 314 Son of Dagon. 6. After a good sleep, Allen woke up full of energy. He got up from the soft and elastic mattress, and heard a rumble in his stomach. "Master, your food is ready. Do you want to eat now?" The mermaid maid next to him smiled secretly and said, "Bring it up." Allen pretended to be nonchalant, and then went directly to the dining table, where tempting food was served. Rainbow lobsters from the Rainbow Sea, premium truffles from the Botanical Garden, secret steaks grilled by the Magic Bull, and juice drinks made with amethyst honey. A large number of magic dishes were quickly served, and Allen turned into a glutton and quickly devoured the food on the table. Rainbow lobsters are a specialty of the Rainbow Sea. After trying it once, Allen caught a large number of them, and released them directly to the demi-plane. This kind of lobster is large in size, delicious in taste, and of course fierce in temperament. It is the little tyrant in the sea. Of course, for wizards, it is not good enough. The slightly sweet, smooth and elastic shrimp meat is very popular in the wizarding world. As the food enters the stomach, Allen's powerful digestive ability quickly converts it into energy. A gentle energy flows along the limbs and bones, and the blood flow accelerates. After eating a piece of steak in one bite, Allen breathed a sigh of relief with satisfaction. As a result, he drank the drink made of Bohemia honey, and a cool feeling rushed from the soles of his feet to his forehead. After stretching, Allen lay on the recliner with his eyes squinted. The maids behind him began to clean up the tableau. Looking at the starry sky outside the astronomical table, Allen fell asleep unknowingly. 3 days later, Allen, who had fully recovered, was ready to deal with the divine crystal of the son of Dagon. He took out a gem that shone with golden light. It was the diamond that sealed the soul of the son of Dagon. The divine power in this divine crystal was more than what Allen had obtained before. Allen now had 3 points of divinity in his body, and this divine crystal of the son of Dagon had at least 5 points. It was impossible to absorb so much divinity at once. Allen could only absorb a little bit of his body each time, and it would take about a month to digest it. However, if he wanted to absorb the divinity inside, he still had to solve a problem. If the soul of the son of Dagon was an ordinary soul, Allen could absorb it by himself after purifying it, increasing his own soul energy. However, the son of Dagon was extremely chaotic, and his soul energy was full of negative emotions. Evil, pride, madness, killing, violence, destruction, chaos, etc. could affect Allen's mind and even directly change his personality if he was not careful. He became an arrogant, conceited, violent, and crazy wizard. He didn't want to become that kind of pervert in the future. He didn't want to enjoy a good life and die. However, it would be a pity to throw away such a huge amount of soul energy. Allen had a good idea. He planned to let the demigod tower spirit absorb the soul energy inside. As a demigod level constructed life, he was cold, rational, loyal and completely emotionless. He had an eternal mechanized mind. He was completely immune to these negative spirits. There was another advantage. Even if it was a demigod level tower spirit, as long as the soul energy was sufficient, he could create clones. These clones could be used as tower spirits, or injected into golem puppets as souls. Moreover, the demigod level tower spirit clones were equivalent to a legendary soul core. Tower spirit number 1. Open the element pool. Open the energy channel. With the entry of huge energy, the rune array burst into dazzling aura. He took out the divine crystal and placed it directly into the rune array. Allen raised his staff and chanted the spell loudly. Soul extraction. A purple soul force was extracted from the divine crystal, and a crazy and violent emotion instantly filled the entire room. The temperature around dropped to freezing point at this moment. Allen even felt like he was in a world of ice and snow. In fact, these were all illusions. Illusions caused by the soul force full of negative energy. Allen guided this soul force and injected it into the soul core of the demigod tower spirit. The tower spirit's cold language was calm, and these soul energies full of negative emotions were easily absorbed by him and then transformed into his own power. As the soul energy was continuously extracted, the son of Dagon continued to wail, but his voice kept getting lower and lower. The soul had slowly become transparent from a nearly substantial state and was further virtualized. A large amount of soul energy was extracted, and the soul of the son of Dagon finally became nothingness. Then a trace of light golden energy appeared in front of him, which was the divinity in it. Divinity is a magical power. It can be compatible with any energy, and can be completely stripped out. It is a power that exists forever. Extract the divinity. A little bit of divinity was stripped out. After Allen saw the divinity, his soul felt hungry. Without hesitation, he slowly injected it into his body. With the injection of divinity, Allen's soul felt swollen, which meant that his soul was full. The spell was interrupted, and the divinity was resealed. The remaining divinity and the divinity crystal needed 4 more extractions. After finishing the spell, Allen came to the meditation room and began to absorb and digest the divinity. Divinity improves creatures comprehensively. After the first absorption of divinity, the body will be sublimated, and the physical fitness will be strengthened. Allen was in the blood metamorphosis period at the time, so this change was obvious. The improvement obtained by fusing divinity afterwards was limited. This is probably because the power of divinity has not reached a certain level. The divinity of a demigod generally needs to reach 10 points, while the divinity of the lowest level of the weak divine power is about 20 points. However, the power of a god is not only the divinity, but also the godhood. The power added by the lowest level of godhood is equivalent to 10 professional levels during the Arcane Empire. In the wizard world, it is equivalent to 2 wizard levels. If it is a 4th level legendary wizard, plus the lowest level of godhood, it is equivalent to a 6th level wizard. Therefore, the lowest level gods are not something that mortals can fight. However, the material world rejects gods, so they cannot descend in their true bodies. They must descend as saints or incarnations. At this time, although the gods are powerful, they are not invincible. The wizard world has not made too deep research on divinity. The world of Tebas is only similar to the period of the Arcane Empire. It is said that the demigod Lich was born in that period. It is said that the Arcane Empire was warned by many gods when it studied divinity. This is also one of the reasons why the Arcane Empire was eventually destroyed. The gods should be the most familiar with the power of divinity. Many studies during the Arcane Empire have touched the bottom line of the gods, so under a conspiracy, the extremely glorious civilization came to an end. Chapter 315 Elemental Plane. In the following time, Allen stayed in the wizard tower to digest the divinity. When he had nothing to do, he would train his maids, and then go to the demi-plane for transformation. After all, it was only roughly completed, and other details needed to be slightly adjusted. Allen also tried to place the wizard tower directly on the demi-plane, but this method consumed a lot of energy for the demi-plane, and the energy obtained from the source sea was not enough to support the growth of the demi-plane. Maybe it will take until the demi-plane grows to a certain extent before it can withstand the wizard tower. After a little time of repair, the demi-plane became very lively. There were many kinds of creatures in the ocean that occupied half of the size, and a new ecosystem had been reformed. The magic clams and magic corals cultivated by Allen grew well. It must be said that mermaids played a big role in this. These mermaids are naturally friendly to marine life, and they have the ability to make other marine life grow better. The quality of pearls produced by the magic clams also began to rise. After absorbing the soul power of the son of Dagon, Tower Spirit number 1 can already differentiate into an avatar, but considering that there is no legendary construct puppet, this avatar has not been created for the time being. The aftermath of the last battle also began to ferment on the wizard continent. At that time, the strength of the power had reached the strongest level in this world. Many wizards of the prophecy school used prophecy to check the battle situation at that time and wanted to find the final winner. However, they could only see the figure of the son of Dagon, and the rest was a ball of golden light. The power of the artifact easily blocked those who wanted to find Allen along the long river of time. During this period, many places on the continent have reappeared fallen people, and the abyss is still slowly eroding this world. A large number of wizards have been sent to various places for garrison, and the rune array for detecting demons has spread in the wizard world. Many wizard organizations have already built it in densely populated areas, not as good as some citizen-rich territories. However, the scope of the wizard world is too large, and there are other continents. The workload is huge. Allen has calculated that it will take at least hundreds of years to complete. However, it is only deployed in densely populated areas now. After all, demons need a lot of soul sacrifices to come here. In the crater of the demi-plane, Allen is checking the crater. This is a volcano created by summoning the fire element last time. Allen's purpose is to build an ore factory here. In many cases, the formation of ore is caused by magma activity, but magma alone is not enough. To form a vein, the earth element is also needed. Although Allen's demi-plane is connected to the 4 elemental planes, with his current size, it may take thousands of years to form a large or super large vein. With such a long time, by the time it is formed, Allen may have already built a floating city to travel the sea of stars. If you want to speed up this speed, you need some special methods. For example, swallowing a world. This is not very reliable. Compared with a world, Allen's demi-plane can only be swallowed by it, or a rock plane that has just been formed by the earth element plane by a burst of luck. But Allen is not favored by the goddess of luck, and this kind of good thing basically does not happen to him. There are also some ways to let a legendary earth element stay in this demi-plane all year round. The power of the earth element can speed up the formation of ore veins. At the junction of the earth element and the fire element, some small planes here produce a large amount of ores and gems. However, these small planes are connected to the elemental plane, and you must enter from the elemental plane. Allen can enter here from the fire element plane or the earth element plane, but the fire element plane is not friendly, and can be said to be full of dangers. The entire fire element plane is actually floating on a huge sea of magma. Among the 4 elemental planes, the fire element plane is the worst environment for humans. There is also land here, but the land here is like a burning coal mine. The temperature is very high, and there is no water and little food in the fire element plane. There are fire giants, elemental lords, elemental demigods, elemental elders, fire element, fire apes, fire lizards and other lives that like fire. Many of these lives only need fire to survive. The fire element plane is full of flames. Although there is oxygen in the air, there are more toxic gases and the temperature is very high. Ordinary people who come here may burn their lungs just by breathing the air here. Although the environment is harsh, it is not insurmountable for wizards. The most dangerous are the various lives in the fire elemental plane. Fire element are very irritable, very aggressive, and like to wander around. Low-level fire element are irrational and born pyromaniacs. They want to set fire to everything they see. If Allen goes to the fire elemental plane, there is a high probability that he will be besieged by fire element and then flee in embarrassment, because in the fire elemental plane, Allen's artifact is not easy to use. All the water element here are ejected by the plane itself. If Allen relies on his own strength, he can only release a water ball in the fire elemental plane, and it will disappear quickly. Even if he has the sea god artifact in his hand, he probably can't even summon a low-level water element. Water element also extremely repel the fire elemental plane, so his strength will be greatly reduced when he arrives at the fire elemental plane. Fire element are the most difficult to deal with among the 4 element. They tend to be in the chaotic evil camp, and the lower planes are very close to the fire elemental plane. The most friendly to humans are the wind giants. They often trade with humans, and the spell of wishing summons the wind giants. Allen was going to search from the earth element plane. Compared to the fire element plane, the earth element plane was much better. Although the gravity here was 10 times that of the normal world and there were rocks everywhere, you didn't have to worry about magma erupting suddenly under your feet, or the ground suddenly turning into a magma lake when you stepped on it. Although the earth element plane was not friendly to people, it was not hostile. They were closer to neutrality. As long as you didn't provoke them, they basically wouldn't attack you. Compared to the fire element plane, it was much safer. There lived various earth element creatures, earth giants, elemental demigods, elemental lords, stone giants, earth elementals, and dragons. There were many neutral dragons living in the earth element plane. Gem dragons, crystal dragons and other dragons like to stay in the earth element plane. Many lives in the multiverse like to hunt gem dragons. The existence of gem dragons could easily lead to fatal disasters, so there were very few gem dragons in the material plane. The earth element plane could be said to be the plane with the highest gem production in the multiverse. All dragons had no resistance to these shiny things. Chapter 316 Earth Elemental Plane. Plane Travel. Legendary Spell. Earth Element Passage. Desolate. This was Allen's first feeling, and then the gravity here. After testing, the chip found that the gravity here is 4.7 times that of the wizard world. Ordinary people would be crushed by gravity when they come here. The earth element plane is full of rocks, desolate land, mountains, pits, and no ocean. Many cave creatures, digging worms, reptiles, dwarves, etc. live here, and the most are various earth elemental earth giants. Earthquakes often occur in the earth element plane. The land here contains many rare minerals, but the earth element do not welcome anyone to come here to mine. Although the frequency of earthquakes here is alarmingly high, travelers may still enjoy a moment of peace in the earth. This is the first time Allen has come here. After a short period of adaptation, the powerful red dragon blood has made him adapt to this gravity. Unprepared adventurers will feel that there is a heavy object on their bodies as soon as they enter here. Weapons that were easily used before may not be able to be waved here. This is the periphery of the earth element plane, in the center of the earth element, where the gravity coefficient is 10. Ordinary people will be crushed to death by gravity, just like a tomato being smashed to the ground. Current plane, earth element plane, periphery. Plane characteristics. Gravity doubled. The closer to the center, the higher the gravity. Area. Infinite. Dominant by the earth element. Enhanced spells. All spells and spell-like abilities related to the earth element will achieve spell power bonus, and low-level earth element spells will be cast instantly. Weakened spells. Spells and spell-like abilities that you saw summon air element will be hindered. Summoning air element here will be rejected. All air element spells released here need to pass the spell identification check, and the power will be greatly reduced. As soon as he arrived at this plane, Allen found a magic gem on a stone and gently dug it out. The quality was good, but it was a little small. At this time, the ground shook violently, and a crack appeared directly under Allen's feet. Sensing the vibration, he jumped up to avoid it instantly, and a crack several meters wide was exposed. The tremor lasted for more than 10 seconds, before returning to calm. The ground here became undulating. A wandering earth element saw the gem in Allen's hand, and rushed over with her oar without any intention of communicating. These earth elements do not welcome anyone to enter their territory and dig for gem minerals. Obviously, this gem has an owner. But if Allen wants to take it back, after it is in his hands, he is basically dreaming. Binding spell. Exploding fireball. There was a burst of explosions, and the earth element was directly blown into countless rubble. I walked over to take a look, but I didn't find the element core. Allen went directly to another place. The earth element plane is rich in various mineral resources. Many rare metal minerals in the main material plane can be found here, but it is not easy to get these things. Allen carefully collected some rare minerals, and quietly took a detour when he saw powerful elemental creatures. Although this place is on the periphery of the earth element, there are still powerful elemental creatures such as elemental demigods and earth giants stationed here. There are many legendary creatures in the elemental plane. Wizards need to be legendary to come here. Allen also used the power of the artifact. Any wild monster in the elemental plane has the strength of a second level wizard. No one knows whether there will be an elemental demigod hidden in that corner. Boom. A loud noise came over, and Allen stopped instantly. Such a big noise. What happened over there? The voice came from afar, and that place was in a mountainous area. Go and have a look. Allen was a little hesitant. This time he came to the earth element plane. First for the element core, second for catching a few elemental creatures, and finally to collect rare materials. The element core can be used to make high-level golem puppets. Several special elemental creatures need to be placed in the demi-plane, so that a large number of metal ores will appear in the demi-plane. The rare materials are used to make diamond golems and elemental furnaces. When encountering a battle of this level again, Allen couldn't help but want to watch more with the intention of picking up a bargain. Let's go. Allen thought for a while and decided to go and see. Such a fierce battle is likely to end in a lose-lose situation. With Allen's current strength and artifacts, he is still qualified to play the role of a fisherman. Advanced invisibility, shadow avoidance, disappear. No other elemental creatures were encountered along the way. The creatures in this area seemed to have consciously avoided this area. Allen didn't see a single elemental creature when he flew over, and the movement in the mountain became more and more intensive. Is the movement a bit loud? Allen said secretly when he saw the rocks collapsing in the distance. After carefully crossing a mountain, Allen finally saw the figures fighting not far away. Stone giant, giant rock lizard dragon. Allen's eyes sparkled as he watched the fight several kilometers away. Stone giants are a subspecies of giants that rarely appear in the material plane. Allen remembered that there were such creatures in the world of The Hobbit, but stone giants like to sleep, and when they sleep, they are just a piece of rock. Allen has searched for them several times, but has not found them. These stone giants in the earth elemental plane are huge. The one in front of him is more than 20 meters tall and weighs hundreds of tons. They live for thousands of years and speak giant language. They cannot use armor or weapons. They usually like to lie down in the mountains to sleep. As for the giant rock lizard dragon, this creature has some dragon blood and looks more like a lizard. It lives in groups. It is generally several meters to more than 10 meters in size. It likes to live in caves and is good at digging holes. These giant rock lizard dragons can use gravity, earth spikes, and earthquakes. Combined with their strong bodies and powerful defenses, their group characteristics also make them a kind of overlord in the earth elemental plane. The current situation is very likely that this group of giant rock lizards dug up a stone giant when digging a hole. The stone giant who was awakened was very irritable, and after a nap, he found that there were several holes dug on his body. Without saying a word, he beat him up. The giant rock lizards are not easy to mess with. How could they dig out this thing when digging a hole for no reason? This is a legendary battle. The leading giant rock lizard is already legendary, and there are many smaller giant rock lizards behind him. The stone giant is also legendary, and is much stronger than the leader of the giant rock lizards. Both creatures belong to the category of giant creatures, so the fight is huge, and there is a feeling of heaven and earth collapsing. P.S. Thanks to the book friends I owe Chuhuateng for the reward of 100 starting coins. Chapter 317 Giant Rock Lizard Dragon and Stone Giant. The battle has reached a stalemate. Although the giant rock lizards have the advantage in numbers, a battle is never won by having more people. The stone giant has a huge body and terrifying strength. Even adult dragons cannot compare with it. Except for the leading giant rock lizard that can resist twice, the others are directly hit and sent flying like baseballs. The rocks on its body are shattered, and it seems that it only has one breath left. The stone giant also did not fight back. The claws of these giant rock lizards are sharp, and the rocks on its body are constantly shattered. It can be said that neither side has gained an advantage. Interesting. Will they continue to fight in this situation? Should we add fuel to the fire? Allen hid not far away and looked at the two fighting parties. If the two sides continue to fight to the death, one side will die and the other side will be seriously injured, or both sides will die together. This situation is best for Allen, who wants to take advantage. If both sides decide to stop, Allen will become unprofitable. These giant creatures have a fast recovery ability. As long as the heart of the stone giant is not damaged, as long as some energy is spent, the stone will be pieced back together. The giant rock lizard swallows the ore, and the rock can also be restored in a short time. Allen's chance of getting a bargain is very slim. Roar. With a roar, the giant rock lizard actually showed signs of retreating. After all, except for the leader, the other giant rock lizards are not even a match for the stone giant. If they continue to fight, there will be heavy casualties. Allen, who was watching the battle not far away, felt very disappointed. I haven't picked up the bargain yet. Why are you ready to leave? No, we have to give them some more. Turning on the invisible state, Allen quickly touched the battlefield. At this time, the giant rock lizard had already begun to defend and retreat. Although the stone giant was still attacking, it was not too tight. It seemed that he also knew that the giant rock lizard was ready to retreat. But you don't want to fight? Have you, asked me, Allen? Group rage. Spell power. Allen had already mixed near the giant rock lizard, and then a strong red aura rose instantly, directly wrapping the giant rock lizard and the stone giant. The giant rock lizard dragon, which was ready to retreat, turned red-eyed and stared at the stone giant in front of it. The stone giant also became violent at this moment. The two looked at each other, roared, and rushed forward. After casting the spell, Allen teleported and fled. Although the IQ of elemental creatures was average, he didn't want to be discovered by these monsters and then besieged by both sides. Hiding in the distance and watching the battlefield once again fall into a melee, Allen nodded with satisfaction. The rage spell can reduce the rationality of both sides to the lowest level. The anger will be magnified in an instant, and the combat power will also increase sharply. This spell can greatly increase the combat power of the recipient within a certain period of time. It will also make the two sides of the battle fight to the death. This spell belongs to the war spell. The lethality of the group rage spell is extremely amazing. It is often used to reverse the situation, but the side effects are also very high. If the recipient does not die after the spell ends, his body will become weak, and this state will last for several days or even a month. The combat power in the weak state is less than half of the usual. At this time, whoever wins will die, and the other party will be killed directly by Allen, who takes advantage. This group of giant rock lizards is huge, weighing at least tens of tons. The inertia attached to running at full speed is extremely obvious, with a kind of overwhelming momentum. Boom. Rocks flew everywhere. Countless rocks broke from the bodies of both sides and flew far away. Allen held up an energy shield to block these rocks. The giant rock lizards didn't care about casualties at all. They crashed into them one after another and then bit the stone giant frantically. The stone giant did not show weakness. Every time he punched, a giant rock lizard would be directly knocked away and then fell heavily to the ground. The rock armor on the surface of the body turned into powder, and streams of earthy yellow blood oozed out of the body. The giant rock lizard let a roar, and his already red eyes almost turned into a ball of fire at this time. With a roar, his body took a run up, and jumped up in an instant. The body weighing dozens of tons hit the chest of the stone giant hard. The arm of the stone giant that was blocking his chest was directly smashed, and the body staggered backwards. The huge body smashed the hill next to it. The mountain collapsed, and the boulders rolled. The leader of the giant rock lizard dragon was not in a good situation. This trick of hurting the enemy by 1000 and hurting himself by 800 directly knocked him unconscious. The rock armor on his body broke one after another, and the dragon-like horn on his head had been broken. The battle was still going on. Seeing the stone giant fall, the other giant rock lizard dragons rushed up one after another, wanting to kill him completely, but the stone giant in a seriously injured state was still not something these giant rock lizard dragons could kill. After sacrificing a leg, the stone giant finally killed the attacking giant rock lizard dragon. At this time, both sides had reached the point of exhaustion, and Allen's eyes flashed a gleam of light. Chip. Scan the status of both sides. A light wave invisible to the naked eye swept by. Then a large amount of data streams appeared in front of Allen, and then a cold mechanical voice sounded. The target stone giant has entered a state of near death. In this state, the stone giant will give up some of its rock body and then quickly reassemble. After the reassembly is successful, it will be out of the state of near death. It is recommended that the master use the finger of death, and the success rate of instant death is more than 60%. The giant rock lizard dragon is in a state of serious injury. The rock armor has been broken. It is recommended to use fire arrows to shoot continuously and concentrate firepower on its head. The host has a 73% success rate to kill it directly. At this time, the duration of the group rage spell has ended. The two big guys who were in a state of serious injury and near death have recovered their consciousness. After looking around, Allen quickly approached the direction of the stone giant. The stone giant is now reassembling its body. The reassembled body will be only half or 2/3 the size of the original body. Allen does not want him to complete the reassembly. A strong spell aura appeared instantly, and the strong energy fluctuations obviously alarmed the two big guys. The stone giant accelerated the reassembly of his body, and the giant rock lizard dragon also began to dig on the ground, trying to dig a hole to escape. Allen's figure appeared above the stone giant, and the staff in his hand instantly burst into a dazzling brilliance. Finger of Death. A black light mixed with the breath of death instantly hit the stone giant. The body that was almost reassembled suddenly stopped moving. Then the breath of life quickly peeled off the body. The stone scattered around with a crash, and finally the huge body turned into rubble. Without time to pick up the spoils, Allen flashed and appeared directly above the giant rock dragon. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318 Giant Rock Lizard and Stone Giant. The giant rock dragon felt it the moment the stone giant died. Now Allen rushed directly to it, and the speed of digging the hole was even faster. He had already drilled half of his body into the ground in one breath. Want to run? Allen did not delay at all when he saw the giant rock dragon that had half of its body in the ground. Flame arrow. Spell penetration. Quote asterisk 5 consecutive flames flashed and penetrated the ground directly and then hit the giant rock dragon's head fiercely. 5 consecutive flames penetrated its head directly and the earth yellow blood slowly emerged from the ground. The body of the giant rock dragon leader was huge. Allen directly opened the half plane and threw one of them in, then ran to the side of the stone giant. After the stone giant died, it would leave some of its strange stones. These stones are good materials. The most precious one is the heart of the stone giant. After the stone giant died, all the energy would automatically gather in the heart. This heart is called the heart of the giant, and the dwarves like to call it the heart of the mountains. He quickly collected the things and threw the remaining dozen giant rock lizards into the half plane one by one. Allen, who was not dead, made up one more move and then collected them. After collecting all the spoils, Allen quickly disappeared here. This time, the legendary materials were obtained by these two guys killing each other. This large creature not only has amazing vitality, but also has desperately high defense. If Allen relied on output alone, Allen didn't know how long it would take to break the tortoise shell of a giant rock lizard leader. In addition to the more difficult stone giant, Allen would have no chance unless he drove the wizard tower over. He easily hunted down two legendary creatures and harvested the corpses of more than a dozen giant rock lizards. It was such a rich harvest to come to the earth element plane. Humming a little tune, Allen began to do his business. As the temperature around him rose, the ground had cracked, and this place was close to the fire element plane. Some sparks would appear from time to time on the ground. After going forward for a distance, some flames had already appeared on the ground. The fire element was very aggressive. Magma areas would appear where the fire element and the earth element met. Correspondingly, there were many swamp areas, or even swamp plains, at the junction of the earth element plane and the water element plane. Although this was the outer edge of the elemental plane, there would also be elemental demigods or elemental elders stationed in this border area. If Allen wanted to take something under their noses, he should keep a low profile. Soon, after passing through this area, Allen entered the magma sea. At the same time, various ores here became very rich. Many metal ores were formed because of magma activity. Magma movement could bring metal substances deep underground to the upper layer of the ground. A large amount of metal substances accumulated and formed metal veins. Allen was going to enslave several magma element Put them at the bottom of the demi-plane, and then connect the earth element and the fire element plane to create a magma sea underground. The passages to the fire element plane and the earth element plane were all here, and the energy substances obtained from them would be converted into various resources. Coming to the junction of the earth element plane and the fire element plane, the energy here has become somewhat chaotic, with the violent fire element and the heavy earth element. There are countless volcanoes in the direction of the fire element plane. The heat from the fire element plane is constantly melting rocks, and on the earth element plane side, there are endless mountains. A large amount of magma flows over, and then continues to cool, forming layers of ground. Here, sulfur mines, gold and silver mines, copper and iron mines, obsidian mines, volcanic rocks, marble mines, granite mines, etc. are everywhere, and in the fire element world, most of these materials are still in the state of liquid magma. There are also many gem mines. This is the richest area of gem mines in the multiverse. Of course, you need to be vigilant when collecting, because this is the territory of an elemental demigod. Some wandering elemental creatures around are walking aimlessly. The low-level elemental creatures have low intelligence, and are more of an instinct. Allen did not mine these minerals, but aimed at the magma element on the magma river, ready to grab the magma element, before digging for minerals. If there is a chance, Allen would naturally want to enslave a magma elemental of the elemental elder level, but this is in the elemental plane. The elemental elder can summon element at will. If he is not caught in one blow, his powerful summoning ability will soon summon an elemental army, and in the elemental plane, there are almost no restrictions on summoning element. He can summon element of his own level or below. And all the summoned are the original body. Allen's current strength has no problem defeating an elemental elder, but it is indeed impossible to enslave. The red dragon bloodline gives him a high tolerance for magma, and he can even take a bath in magma in the half-dragon state, so it is not difficult to capture the magma element. A ray of light came up, and Allen had already activated the half-dragon transformation. Spreading the huge dragon wings, he flew directly to the surface of the magma river. The rolling heat waves came, and Allen began to search for targets on the river. After walking along the magma river for a while, Allen found a suitable target. In the tributary of the magma river, a super large magma element was playing in the river bend. From time to time, it grabbed a ball of magma from the magma river, and then tossed it around in its hands. When it had enough fun, it threw the ball of magma into its mouth and ate it. Imprisonment. Allen held the staff, and a flash of light flashed. The super large magma element was directly controlled. With the power of the artifact, he had no room to resist. The next step was to consume the strength of the magma element. After consuming his strength to a limit, Allen directly used the enslavement spell. Fortunately, this super large magma element only lasted for a breath, and Allen left a mark on its elemental core. A mysterious rune mark appeared on its body, and the magma element calmed down. Allen opened the demi-plane and teleported him directly to the volcano, and then continued to look for the next target. After spending some time, Allen successfully enslaved 5 super large magma element. After teleporting them to the demi-plane, Allen stopped capturing elemental creatures. 5 magma element were enough to support Allen's demi-plane. The next step was to find some rare ores. Chip. Scan the surrounding mineral resources. As an invisible light wave spread, a large amount of data flashed before Allen's eyes, and a transparent map appeared in front of him. Then a cold mechanical voice sounded. A large gold mine has been scanned. A super large iron mine has been scanned. A large silver mine has been scanned. A large obsidian mine has been scanned. Scanned. Chapter 319. Satellite Islands. Allen stared at the map scanned by the chip in amazement. Although he knew that the mineral deposits here were rich, he did not expect it to be so exaggerated. In this land of dozens of miles, the chip scanned a large number of mineral veins, and the mineral veins here were all rich mines. Allen took out the tools and began to dig quickly on the ground. The mineral deposits here are very shallow, almost open air veins. After removing the top layer of rock, the mineral veins are below. Many ores can be used directly without smelting, and there are some associated gems in these mineral veins. Allen dug a silver mine with a few digs. What surprised him even more was that the silver mine was accompanied by mithril. Allen dug quickly along the mithril mine. This kind of thing is never enough for a spellcaster. It is said that deep in the earth element plane, there is even a super large mineral vein full of mithril, but it belongs to the territory of the elemental god. As the main god of element, his strength is not weaker than those powerful gods, and even exceeds it. The entire elemental plane belongs to him. If you want to fight him here, it would be better to commit suicide. Allen did not dig too far down, because this is a magma area, and there is still a magma layer under the ore vein. Once he digs through, and the magma surges up, he will need to change places. Sulfur, obsidian, marble, silver mine, mithril, gold mine, refined gold, copper mine, fire copper. A large amount of resources were dug out by Allen, and he even found a lot of gems. A day passed quickly, and there was a violent vibration from the mountains in the distance. Allen's body shook and stopped. I can't dig anymore. The elemental demigod has awakened. If I'm discovered, I don't want to be hunted by a demigod. Allen put away his tools, then shook it lightly, causing the mine to collapse. A stream of magma flowed from the magma river. Allen jumped back to the ground. A strong breath came from the distant mountains. Allen restrained his breath with a guilty conscience, and then activated the coordinates of the material plane and the spiritual sea. Plane transfer. With a ray of spiritual light rising, Allen's figure disappeared in the elemental plane. Back to the astrological table, Allen did not rest, and directly entered the demi-plane. At this time, the giant magma element were playing wantonly in the volcano. Allen went directly into the crater, and waved his staff gently. A deep passage appeared in the volcano. Under Allen's command, these magma element entered it honestly. There was the lowest point of this plane. After placing the magma element, Allen connected the passages of the fire element plane and the earth element plane directly to the magma sea. After commanding these magma element to control the magma here, he tapped the ground with his staff, and the volcano returned to its original state. As the magma element moved, Allen's demi-plane began to slowly generate various mineral veins. I believe that it will not be long before the demi-plane can produce various resources. When the demi-plane grows to a certain extent, most of Allen's materials can be completely self-sufficient. After dealing with the affairs of the demi-plane, Allen returned to the wizard tower again. Everything is running normally here in the wizard tower. With so many mates managing it, resources are being accumulated in an orderly manner. Salt Island is rich in obsidian, and the future floating city needs to consume a lot of obsidian. At the same time, the minerals here are also very rich, and the gold-eating beasts will mine a lot of metals every month. Allen and Earl Anthony jointly built a number of factories here, among which the most popular ones are porcelain factories, glass factories, breweries, sugar factories, etc. The sales of high alcohol liquor made by distillation and filtration technology are rising steadily on the mainland. The Salt Islands have a tropical climate and a variety of tropical fruits are abundant. In this technologically backward medieval environment, these fruits cannot be preserved for a long time. Many fruits are dehydrated and made into fruit shops or canned for sale. A lot of sugar cane is also planted here. Allen provided the sugar extraction technology to produce a large amount of sweet and pure sucrose. Sugar was a luxury item during this period, and even the nobles rarely ate it. The sugar they mainly ate came from honey and very sweet fruits. The appearance of white sugar directly detonated the taste buds of these nobles. Salt Island could earn countless wealth just by relying on sugar. In addition to white sugar, it was also rich in refined salt. People at this time still use the technology of boiling salt. As a tropical area, drying salt was the best way. Although wizards can make refined salt, they use spells to purify it more. Allen took out the sea salt technology in the chip, and the white and snowy refined salt became another source of wealth. A large amount of relatively cheap refined salt brought a lot of wealth here. Porcelain and glassware are the goods pursued by the nobles. Now there are no less than 10 fleets belonging to Earl Anthony. Tens of thousands of people work for him, and the guards of various caravans have exceeded 1,000. For the safety of the caravan, Earl Anthony came to Allen specifically hoping to get some night breathing methods. Allen nodded and agreed to this request. He copied several copies from the library and threw them to him. It must be said that Anthony was a successful businessman. He recruited guards and established a set of rules. After reaching a certain contribution, he could exchange for part of the night's breathing method. After a certain amount of contribution, he could finally get a complete Knight's breathing method. As a secular world ruled by aristocrats, the Knight's breathing method has always been preserved by the aristocrats. Ordinary civilians basically have to rely on the aristocrats, or be accepted as disciples by other knights to obtain it. This method of Earl Anthony was immediately supported by countless people who were unwilling to be ordinary. The addition of a large number of guards made his strength grow rapidly. Although many nobles knew that there was a wizard behind Anthony, they did not dare to target him openly, so Salt Island became a treasure pot, gathering a lot of wealth, and they had to restrain themselves, but some grey means were more. Hiring pirates, hiring thieves, and robbing fleets and caravans, as long as there was no evidence, even if they knew who it was. According to the game of the nobles, Anthony could not do anything. With such a large guard team, he was finally able to protect the safety of the caravan. As for finding Allen to take action, the wizard's time is very precious. If this little thing can't be done well, Allen can consider changing a spokesperson. Therefore, Allen doesn't bother to pay attention to this kind of noble game. As long as no other wizard takes action, Allen doesn't bother to ask. After the caravan sells the goods, it collects all the resources Allen needs, and then transports them back to the Salt Islands, and finally transports them to Allen's wizard tower. Although Allen doesn't care about the secular world, he still has a decisive power in the secular world. Chapter 320 Pollution. Count Anthony's wealth is so rich that it can rival a country. Several kingdoms and empires around him are extremely jealous. Count Anthony knows this, so his only way is to get into Allen's arms. Allen doesn't have to worry about him betraying her, but even if he betrays her, it doesn't matter. Just destroy her humanely and replace her with a new one. Since the mermaid maid appeared, the manpower of the wizard tower has become sufficient. Many magic plants have been planted. Allen has also cultivated magic rice. This rice tastes sweet and can improve physical fitness after eating. Although it has no effect on Allen, it can still provide a lot of energy. Various materials in the warehouse are growing, but some precious materials are still not enough. The mithril plus the one Allen brought back from the elemental plane has reached 50 pounds, which is already the highest level in history. It is enough to make an elemental furnace. There are also many other materials that have passed through the elemental plane. Other miscellaneous affairs are taken care of by the little maid Biss. Allen doesn't have the energy to take care of these trivial matters, but Biss will give Allen a summary report every month. Allen is still very relieved about Biss. Allen found that with the completion of the floating tower, his things did not decrease, but became more. Elemental furnace, legendary golem, artificial magic net, and various supporting factories needed to upgrade the floating city, all of which need to be built and improved step by step. It is indeed very troublesome for one person to build a floating city. Once again returning to the Five Rings Tower, this time back, the atmosphere of the academy is obviously different. All wizards are in a hurry. The pressure of the abyss is getting greater and greater. Dean Alfred has recovered from his injury last time, and the last incident has been announced to the public. All low-level wizards feel the undercurrent under the calm. In the near future, the battle between the wizard world and the abyss is inevitable, and at that time, having strong strength is the only reliance. Allen returned to the botanical garden. The two lowly apprentices were meditating hard in the room. It seems that they already know that the days ahead will be more dangerous. Putting the books and some reward resources prepared for them in the living room, Allen prepared to go to the Tower of Wisdom. Although he is not very reliable as a mentor, he will not be stingy in giving apprentices some resources. The Tower of Wisdom has collected many notes of previous wizards. Perhaps their knowledge is not as good as Allen's, but every high-level wizard has his own extraordinary qualities. There are many wonderful ideas in these notes. Wizards have never been obedient children who follow the rules. Otherwise, there would not be so many wizards who have committed suicide in history. Sometimes their wonderful ideas will bring a lot of inspiration to Allen. After borrowing a few books, Allen walked towards the botanical garden. "Jean, are you going to the contaminated area tomorrow?" A young wizard who looked like a combat wizard said. "Yes, there are still many contaminated areas that have not been cleaned up. These contaminations are very stubborn, and we are cleaning them up very slowly," said the wizard of the botanical garden named Jean. If the progress is still slow next week, I guess your combat department will also need to transfer manpower. The energy of the Demon Lord is not so easy to clean up. I need to prepare in advance. The contaminated area has not been cleared yet. Allen heard the conversation between the two young wizards in front of him and muttered to himself. It has been half a year. Thinking all the way back to the botanical garden, Allen did not go back directly, but turned around and went to find Lilith. Lilith was not staying there. Allen took out the borrowed books and read them while waiting. At midnight, Lilith returned to the botanical garden. Seeing Allen waiting outside the door, she was very surprised and then said apologetically, "Allen, why are you here? Sorry, I made you wait here for a long time." "It's okay, I just came back. It's nice to read here." Allen raised the book in his hand and smiled. "Coming quickly, you have been too busy recently, and you ran away directly after completing the task. I can't find you for help." Lilith opened the door, poured a cup of tea, and handed it to Allen, complaining a little. "Is it because of the polluted land?" Allen took a sip of the tea and said, "You look a little tired." "It's okay, it's just that the mana consumption is a bit large. The abyss energy in the polluted land is difficult to clean up, and it takes a lot of mana to clear it. I'm used to it." Lilith poured herself a cup of tea and sat down at the table. "How did you deal with this kind of thing in the past?" Allen asked, turning the teacup in his hand. "In the past, we used neutralization energy to clean up the pollution, or used water element energy to dilute it. After diluting it to a certain degree, it will easily dissipate on its own. But the energy this time is a little different. We use neutralization energy. This time the abyss evil energy is very strong and comes from the Demon Lord. The energy level is very high. We use positive energy to neutralize it, which requires a lot of energy to achieve qualitative change from quantitative change. If we use water energy to dilute it, it is also difficult to dilute it. If the water element energy is too little, it will be polluted by its energy." Lilith said with a headache. "Now we have sealed up the polluted land and spent a lot of manpower to clean it up. The botanical garden is already short of manpower. Then do you have any new research results?" Allen asked. Lilith shook her head and said, "Not yet. Although we have planted some plants to extract abyssal energy, after absorbing too much abyssal energy, these demonized plants have also been polluted and have signs of turning into the abyss. Moreover, these plants have become chaotic and aggressive, which can easily cause secondary pollution. Maybe the polluted land has been cleaned up, but they have become a new source of pollution." Allen nodded and said, "Give me some seeds of the demonized plants you cultivated. I will go back and study them." Lilith nodded, turned around and went to the house to get a bottle, and handed it to Allen. Although the Demon Lord has cleaned up, these polluted lands are still there. If they cannot be solved as soon as possible, the power of the abyss will continue to erode the rules of the wizard world through here. Allen has learned about the abyssal evil energy of the Demon Lord, and even the abyssal evil energy left by the son of Dagon he killed is even stronger, but with the help of the power of the artifact, he easily cleared those polluted energies. If Allen is willing to take action, the abyssal evil energy of the polluted land will also be cleared quickly. But his artifact staff is likely to be exposed, and Allen does not want to be remembered by a group of wizards when his strength is not enough. Chapter 321 Parliament. When Allen returned to his residence, the sky was already dark. When he came to the laboratory, Allen took out the seeds cultivated in the botanical garden. There were 5 kinds of seeds, all of which had been transformed. They were transformed from the templates of the plants of demonized thorns, demonized man-eating plants, demonized dates, bloody mandala, and forget-me-not. Some of these plants have strong vitality and can grow in extremely harsh environments, while others need to absorb a lot of energy during their growth. These plants were transformed to clean up areas polluted by wizards. The effect is really good, but it is not good enough for the abyss energy. The abyss energy is very corruptible, and these plants are often infected by it after absorbing the abyss energy. One night passed quickly. Allen walked out of the laboratory with red eyes. There was already a wizard waiting in the living room, and his 2 apprentices were standing next to him. Allen felt that this wizard looked familiar, but he didn't remember where he had seen him. "Sir Allen, there is a meeting in the academy that requires you to go." The wizard leaned over slightly. Allen nodded and said, "I know, I'll go there right away." White Tower, Parliament Hall. When Allen arrived, the place was already full of people. These wizards were all senior members of the academy. Allen nodded and sat down in a corner. After Allen sat down, several more wizards arrived. Finally, the chief of the botanical garden, Selena, came to the front desk and said, "Everyone is here, so let's start this meeting." After that, a white light flashed on the wall behind him, and a map was clearly visible. At present, all the fallen warlocks in the eastern region of the Wizarding continent have been cleared out, and the ordinary fallen people have also been controlled. The botanical garden is trying to clean up the polluted areas. Witchanna is in charge of this matter. Selena nodded to a beautiful witch and continued, "Witchanna will dispatch some wizards to help. I hope you will not refuse. Sir Celtic, you still need to communicate about the Wizarding Union. After a while, the Wizarding Union will look for some wizards from us as support. This was agreed upon by Dean Alfred and Sir Nicholas last time. I would also like to trouble you to form a wizard team." The Celtic wizard stood up and nodded. "No problem, I will form a team, as soon as possible. The Wizarding Union must communicate well. As the most powerful wizard organization, it is now the leader in the fight against the Abyss. Finally, we need to discuss the alliance." Selena paused and then continued, "At this time, we must unite all the forces that can be united. Even if we have hatred in the past, we must sit down and talk now. The power of the Abyss will not allow us to continue to waste our energy." "Does it also include those dark wizards?" many wizards asked after hearing this. Selena paused slightly and said slowly, "According to the will of Dean Alfred, we must try to win over even the dark wizards for cooperation during this period. No, many of our companions and friends died in their hands. I don't trust them." For a time, the crowd was indignant. More or less, several of these wizards died in the war between the two sides. I hope you can understand the situation. Although we have hatred, this is related to the future of the college and even the whole world after all. So this matter is not decided by my attitude alone. We are going to vote here. This is the covenant they sent. Everyone can take a look first. Selena took out several parchment scrolls and distributed them to everyone. Since the last wizard war, there has been little contact between the two sides. The Five Rings Tower has suppressed other wizard organizations in the eastern region with its powerful strength, but times have changed. At this time of the Abyss invasion, they must be given some benefits. If any wizard organization collectively goes crazy and directly throws itself into the arms of the Abyss, the demons in the lower planes will probably laugh to death. Although we know that the probability is very low, we must guard against it. Therefore, giving up some interests in exchange for an alliance and completing a united front is something that must be resolved as soon as possible. I think it should be accepted." A wizard from the combat unit stood up and said, "Although I wish I could kill them all, as a wizard I must remain calm and sober. At this time, our enemies are the bugs in the Abyss. Before we get rid of them, we need to put aside the grievances between us and those wizard organizations for the time being. No, I can't trust them." Another wizard stood up and retorted loudly, "Those black wizards have no credibility. Past history has shown that they can tear up any contract at will. I don't want to be betrayed by the damned smelly black wizards at the critical moment of fighting the Abyss. Such a lesson must not happen again. Yes, we are not confident to leave our backs to these people." As the wizard's voice fell, other wizards supported him. Times have changed. I think at this time, even if it is a black wizard, we should strive for cooperation. A wizard in a white robe stood up and said, "With the support of the Wizard Union, those black wizards must not dare to offend both of us and betray us. I think we should unite all the forces that can be united at this time. The Abyss has not left us much time. I also think we should unite." Victor, the wizard of the Tower of Wisdom, stood up. "We are not the opponent of the Abyss with our own strength. If we don't unite at this time, what awaits us in the end is just being swallowed by the Abyss, and the wizard world will become a new layer of the Abyss." As Victor spoke, many wizards agreed, and this situation made the wizards who originally opposed hesitate. Our world is under threat. If we can't reach a settlement as soon as possible, it will be very disadvantageous for us. Allen thought for a while and stood up and said, "But we can't completely trust those dark wizards. We need an accurate and fast system to evaluate the wizard organizations that are worth uniting and try to form an alliance with those that are trustworthy. All wizards must sign a blood contract and be prepared for those who are unwilling to sign a blood contract. If necessary, we can deal with these people now, Allen said in a firm tone. He also didn't want to be on guard against the back when fighting against the abyss. If those people are unwilling to sign a blood contract, then Allen doesn't mind taking the initiative. He doesn't want someone to suddenly open the dark portal at a critical moment. Your Excellency, Allen's words make sense. We can screen and evaluate those wizard organizations and then sign a blood contract. The Minister of Warfare, Fachiel, nodded and said, as for those who are unwilling, he has already sentenced them to death in his heart. Chapter 322 Mummy. Soon, the attitudes of the other wizards in the council became clear. Those who were willing to sign the blood covenant would form an alliance, and those who were unwilling could only say sorry. After everyone finished discussing, Selena, the witch from the botanical garden, nodded and said, no one wants to add anything, so let's vote. The voting started soon. In addition to a few wizards who clearly opposed the alliance, 10% of the wizards abstained from voting, and more than 80% of the remaining wizards believed that the alliance could be formed. Finally, Selena took over and announced, the Five Rings Tower agrees to form an alliance with other wizard organizations around, including dark wizards. This matter will be handled by Wizard Victor. The meeting ended quickly, and Allen also left the White Tower. He was going back to study the seeds, and wanted to transform them. After all, it would take too many people to clean up the abyss energy by manpower alone. The academy was short of manpower during this period, and Allen was also drafted to squeeze out some time from the already limited time, and then went to teach those wizard apprentices. The research progress of demonized plants is very slow. These plants can quickly and efficiently clean up ordinary pollution, but they have limited effect on this high concentration of abyss energy. Allen grafted several plants and cultivated a plant with stronger vitality, but after testing it with the residual energy of the Son of Dagon, it still could not resist the erosion of the abyss. It would be great if there were gods of the natural system, Allen said helplessly. The gods of the natural system are the most professional in cleaning up this kind of pollution. If there are gods, the difficulty of the abyss to succeed will be doubled. The duties of the gods of the natural system are purification, which is the nemesis of these negative energies. If there are druids in this world, it would be easy to clean up these pollutions. They are much better than wizards. After some experiments, Allen's only way is to bless these seeds with the artifact staff, and then put them into the element pool, and soak them with elemental water. After they germinate, they will be transplanted to the polluted land, so that the abyss energy can be removed. The other steps are easy, but Allen has to do it himself to release the blessing with the artifact. Other wizards can't make it. Allen thought about it and decided to make a batch himself, then travel through the world and become a legend as soon as possible. As long as he becomes a legend, those prying eyes will be put away. A legendary wizard who masters the artifact is in existence that even large wizard organizations dare not provoke. After handing the seeds blessed by the artifact to Lilith, Allen received the task of guarding the Southeast Sea area and returned to the Wizard Tower. In the astronomical observatory, a ray of light rose, and Allen's figure disappeared. The sky was full of yellow sand and the sun was scorching. The yellow gravel was scorched by the midday sun. Even the lizards and venomous snakes living in the desert would not be exposed to the air at this time. A breeze blew, blowing up the gravel, and a figure suddenly appeared on a sand dune. The desert. There is elemental energy around, similar to the Caribbean world. There are no humans around. I can't be sure where it is. Let's find a place with people first. Allen looked at the yellow sand, recognized the direction, and then directly performed a flying spell. Egypt. In the 1920s, the world war that had just ended exhausted the British Empire. In order to prevent the economic recession in the homeland, the British Empire increased its suppression of colonies. As one of the most important colonies of the British Empire, it is close to the Suez Canal. As a canal connecting the Mediterranean and the Red Sea, its existence has reduced the distance of sea transportation that originally needed to go around a big circle by half. A large number of ships provided rich wealth for the British Empire. Allen walked on the streets here in a robe and a hood. The streets were crowded with people. This period was white supremacy, and the streets were full of white people running rampant. Egypt, is it a mummy? After so many times of traveling through the world, Allen roughly figured out the characteristics of the world of traveling through. Most of the worlds traveled through are movie worlds on Earth, and movies about Egypt cannot avoid mummies. Allen has only seen mummies in some museums. The whole body is wrapped in white linen strips. There are also mummies in the wizard world. It is an undead creature made by wizards of the necromancy school, but this kind of thing has not appeared for a long time. Allen cast a disguise spell, and then began to wander in the streets and alleys. The city was dirty and messy during this period, and the war that had just ended made it a kind of abnormal prosperity. Unconsciously, Allen came to the door of a museum. Looking at this ancient Egyptian museum, Allen suddenly wanted to go in and take a look. Walking up to the gate, Allen pushed the door and prepared to enter. "Sorry, sir, the museum is not open to the public today." A manager saw Allen pushing the door and stood up to stop him. "I'm an archaeologist and hope to visit the glorious history of the ancient Egyptian kingdom here." Allen smiled at the manager, and a bag of heavy gold coins was handed over. The manager felt a sinking in his hand, looked up and saw Allen's smiling face, and then put it away without a sound. "Since you are an archaeologist, we welcome you to visit here. Please follow me." Allen smiled and nodded, then followed him in. It has to be said that the Egyptian Museum does have a rich collection. It houses a large number of funerary objects from the pharaoh period. In Allen's perception, many things here have the breath of the dead. Obviously, most of these things are funerary objects, and some are even entangled with vicious curses. Among them, the mummies have the strongest negative energy. However, with such a strong breath of the dead, these mummies did not resurrect. The dead energy in the surrounding environment is very strong, and the people working here are more or less contaminated. There are also various sacrificial items. There were many gods in ancient Egypt. Allen found residual divine power on these sacrificial items, which shows that this world also has gods. This discovery made Allen's heart move. There are two books in Egyptian mythology that cannot be ignored. That is, the Black Book of the Dead and the Golden Book of the Sun. The Black Book of the Dead is known as the Book of the Dead. It is an ancient and magnificent collection of poems, totaling 27 chapters, including spells, hymns, lengthy exegesis, various ritual mantras, names of gods, etc. They are generally carved or written on the walls of pyramids or tombs, and some are printed on coffins, or carved on exquisite sarcophagi. Chapter 323 Egypt. The Black Book of the Dead records all the witchcraft and curses in ancient Egypt, while the other Golden Book of the Sun is said to be made of gold, which contains the secrets of God and the method of contacting the curse of the Black Book of the Dead. Allen is not looking forward to the witchcraft recorded in the Black Book of the Dead. He already has a complete spell inheritance, and these can only be regarded as icing on the cake, but the curses are different. There are very few books on the curse of the trickery school in the Five Rings Tower. Only those black wizards have many strange curses. The trickery and voodoo schools are the schools that Allen hates the most. Although most of the curses are ineffective against him at this time, there are still some curses that can cause him serious harm by killing 800 enemies and injuring 1000 of himself. With these curses, you will not be caught off guard when you encounter them. The Golden Book of the Sun records the secrets of the gods. Allen is also very curious about the secrets of the gods. It is said that there are also hidden methods of deification, many methods of removing curses, and even means of resurrecting the dead. Even if these are not as magical as the legend, it is good to enrich Allen's database. After leading Allen to make money, the manager sneakily led Allen into a storage room, where many ancient Egyptian artifacts were randomly placed, some of which were seriously damaged. As soon as they entered here, the manager directly said, "Sir, do you want to take some ancient Egyptian items with you? Why, do you have anything?" Allen looked at the white man with a smile. "Of course, as long as it is here, I can get it for you." The man patted his chest and promised. Allen never thought that as a museum manager, he would actually wrestle the cultural relics here so blatantly, but it would be easy for Allen to deal with it. There are indeed some things in this museum that look good. Since he dares to sell, Allen dares to buy. As for the consequences, haha, the wizard has 100 ways to prevent people here from finding him. "How much do you want?" Allen asked directly. It's best to be gold or silver. Pounds and US dollars are also fine. The fee depends on what you want. The manager said directly. Do you have books and texts from the ancient Egyptian period here? I will buy them at a high price. Allen thought for a while and said, books? There aren't many of them. Each one needs a bag of gold like this. But do you know those hieroglyphs? The man took out the gold that Allen stuffed into his pocket and said. Allen nodded and agreed. Do you know those hieroglyphs? Allen didn't know the ancient Egyptian writings either. He was still thinking about how to interpret the Black Book of the Dead and the Golden Book of the Sun. I don't know them either. The manager scratched his head and said, but I know who knows these words. You know? Who knows these words? Allen asked with his eyes shining. My sister sorts out ancient Egyptian documents in the museum and is proficient in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. As long as you give me money, I will let my sister teach you this kind of writing. The manager said proudly. Hearing this man say that his sister works in the museum, Allen also has a deeper understanding of his shamelessness. The brother and sister work here, but he actually steals museum items and sells them. Okay, as long as your sister really knows this kind of hieroglyphs, I will pay you enough gold to satisfy you. Allen said expressionlessly. Although he despised him in his heart, this kind of person can bring a lot of convenience to himself. That's good. Come with me. By the way, my name is Jonathan. What's your name, sir? My name is Allen. Oh, it's Mr. Allen. Mr. Allen, please follow me. Jonathan took Allen to the archives of the museum. Let me tell you, Mr. Allen, my sister Evelyn is a great beauty. Jonathan promoted his sister to Allen as he walked, and Allen followed him with a bit of a smile. Jonathan's words implied that he wanted to marry his sister. Allen expressed deep sympathy for his sister for having such an unreliable brother. Soon the two came to the door of the archives. After Jonathan opened the door, he looked around and observed for a while, then waved to Allen and walked in. My dear sister, it's a pleasure to see you, Jonathan said exaggeratedly after finding his sister. Brother, why did you bring people here? If the dean sees you, he will scold you, and I don't want to lose this job. The girl named Evelyn glanced at Allen, then frowned and said to Jonathan, Sister, we are going to be rich. As long as you promise me one thing, we will not worry about money in the future. As for the work here, let him go to hell. Jonathan said nonchalantly. Oh brother, tell me, have you secretly resolved the things in the museum? Evelyn was not happy at all when she heard Jonathan's words. Instead, her face changed, and she pulled Jonathan and asked in a low voice, how is it possible? I have never sold anything in the museum. I didn't. It wasn't me. Jonathan said righteously. I'm your biological brother. You should believe me. Jonathan kept emphasizing, trying to make Evelyn believe him, but looking at Evelyn's expression, she didn't believe it at all. What do you want to do with me here? If you have nothing to do, please return to your post as soon as possible. I don't want to be discovered by the dean and scolded. Evelyn said expressionlessly. Well, it was this gentleman who found me. He wants to learn hieroglyphics. Jonathan pointed to Allen and said, this is Mr. Allen. This is my sister Evelyn. Hello, beautiful lady. Allen greeted with a smile. Hello, Mr. Allen. I heard that you are proficient in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. Allen asked directly, I want to learn this kind of writing, and I will also pay you a satisfactory reward. Mr. Allen, I do know Egyptian hieroglyphics, but this kind of writing has no use except for archaeology, and it is completely different from the Latin language. It is very difficult to learn. Are you sure you want to learn it? Evelyn looked at Allen and said without paying any attention to Jonathan's constant winks, I'm very confident in my learning ability. You don't have to worry about this. Even if I can't learn it in the end, I will still pay you money. Allen smiled slightly. He didn't care about the difficulty of learning hieroglyphics at all. As a top student, he has learned more than a dozen obscure wizard languages, not to mention these hieroglyphics. Okay, since you insist, I can teach you. Seeing that Allen insisted on doing so, Evelyn nodded and agreed. Chapter 324 Egyptian Mythology. Allen bought a house in Cairo and started to learn Egyptian hieroglyphics with Evelyn. Jonathan also began to steal some materials from the museum and sell them to Allen. Some of them were original antiquities, and some were photo materials. Allen did not require them to be original. He cared about the information on them. Evelyn would explain the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics to Allen with great interest every day. Allen learned very quickly with the help of the chip. Evelyn thought Allen was lying at first. She looked at Allen in shock, only after she knew that Allen had translated a prayer for her to worship the gods. After receiving Allen's reward, Jonathan went out early and came back late. He often disappeared for several days in a row. Every time he was seen, he looked drunk and had a strong smell of perfume on his body. Allen knew where he had gone without having to guess. Now the reward Allen paid to his sister was squandered by him. Evelyn had no way to deal with such a brother who pitted his sister with such strength. At this time, Allen already knew that he had entered the world of the mummy, legend of the gods and monsters. Allen wanted to get a lot of things in this world, such as the black scripture of the dead, the golden scripture of the sun, and the legendary Shangri-La. In the archives of the museum, Allen even found records about the Scorpion King. Allen also wanted to see the bracelet of the Scorpion King. Moreover, this world was not simple. Unlike the Caribbean world, where the gods were weak or left, Anubis had made several moves in this world. Allen was very clear about the power of the gods. He did not think that he could challenge those gods with a magic weapon. Another year passed unknowingly. Allen had already learned hieroglyphics, and then he read a lot of books and materials in the museum. In these materials, Allen found an interesting phenomenon. The gods of Egypt were constantly changing, and even the main gods were constantly changing. This frequent change of gods was also the first time Allen had seen it. For example, in the earliest times, the main god of Egypt was called Atum. He was originally called the supreme god and the god of the sun, but was later replaced by the god Ra and became Ra-Atum. This was the first change of the main god. After the Theban dynasty unified Upper and Lower Egypt, the god Amun rose up and replaced Ra-Atum, and then became Amun-Ra. Atum is a bull, Ra is a kind old man, and Amun is a handsome man. All three of them are sun gods and supreme gods. Allen speculates that it is probably because the new god rose up and seized the godhood of the old god, which is why the gods in the Egyptian pantheon changed so frequently. The earliest Egyptian god was Atum, who was the creator god and the sun god. In the years that followed, the belief in Ra gradually rose, and eventually Ra replaced his position. Atum eventually became an incarnation of Ra. Ra was called the sun at noon, and Atum became the sun at dusk. Ra has many images, including rams, eagles, cows, lions, scarabs, etc. As the patron saint of the pharaoh, Amun first rose in Thebes, and was the patron saint of Thebes. Amun has an independent pantheon. Atum and Ra are both Egyptian 9-pillar gods, and Amun is an 8 primary god with his own wives, children and other pantheons. It was not until Thebes unified Upper and Lower Egypt that Amun became the main god of the entire Egypt. The opposite of the gods is the underworld. The most famous god of death in Egyptian mythology is Anubis with a jackal head. He is also known as the god of mummies and the god of embalming. In Egyptian mythology, death is not the end, but entering the underworld, sleeping in the underworld, and even resurrecting. Osiris is the lord of the underworld. As the eldest son of Ra, Osiris was supposed to inherit Ra's position, but tragically he was killed by his younger brother, and he killed him twice. The first time, his younger brother, Set, the god of the desert, prepared a banquet for him. At this banquet, Set took out an extremely gorgeous box. Some say it was a coffin, but how stupid it is to take out a coffin at a banquet and let the guests lie in it, and then announced that whoever could lie in it would be given the box. Osiris was instigated by Set and decided to give it a try. Unexpectedly, after he lay in, Set closed the coffin and sealed it, and then threw it into the Nile and drowned. Allen felt that Osiris's IQ was really touching when he saw this. After his wife Isis found the body and resurrected him, this mentally retarded child once again showed us what tragedy is. Set killed him again. This time, Set divided his body into more than a dozen pieces and hid the body fragments all over the world. His wife Isis once again spent a long time collecting his body all over the world and resurrected him again, but this time Isis's magic could not sustain his life for a long time. He finally died, but before he died, he made his wife pregnant and left a child, letting this child avenge her. It has to be said that this operation is too strong and Osiris finally became the god of the underworld. It can be said that this Hades is a complete tragedy. In many pyramids, the most common one is the god of death Anubis. The villain Imhotep in this world had his soul taken away by Anubis. Similarly, the bracelet of the Scorpion King was also given by Anubis. It can be said that the most active person in this world is not not Ammon, but the desert god of death, Anubis. The place where the Black Book of the Dead and the Golden Book of the Sun are buried is Hamunaptra, the capital of the king. Allen searched the documents here, but did not find its specific location. A lot of information says that Hamunaptra is hidden deep in the desert. It is the resting place of the pharaohs of all dynasties. There are tens of thousands of gold treasures buried. Countless adventurers, tomb robbers, and archaeologists want to find it, but they have not succeeded, so that many people think that Hamunaptra is just a legend. But Allen knows that this city of the dead is real, and soon someone will come out alive from there. Allen looked through the books and materials in the museum, and after donating a sum of money to the museum, he can view the private collection of the museum director here. The identity of this curator is not ordinary. He is a descendant of the pharaoh's guards. In the past thousands of years, the descendants of the pharaoh's guards have been preventing others from entering Hamunaptra. There are many stories about Egyptian gods in his collection of books, which is very helpful for Allen to understand Egypt. For example, in Egypt, black cats are messengers of the underworld. All the dead are afraid of them. Even Imhotep, the mummy priest who has been mummy for thousands of years, was afraid of cats when he was not fully resurrected after experiencing the torture of worm bite. You know, he could cast many spells at that time. Chapter 325, Hamunaptra, the City of the Dead. That afternoon, Allen was sitting in a room in the library looking through materials. Suddenly, he was startled by a rumble downstairs. He hurried downstairs to check, only to see Evelyn looking at a loss. The library was in a mess. "Oh my god. Look what you have done," the museum director said angrily. Evelyn stepped forward to explain. "I mean, this is an accident." The curator sneered a few times, his eyes wide open. "Ramses' destruction of Syria was an accident, and you are simply a disaster. Compared with you, termites are simply child's play. I really don't understand why I keep you here." After hearing this, Evelyn stepped forward and said proudly, "The reason you keep me here is because I know all the history and documents of ancient Egypt. Moreover, I can read and write ancient Egyptian characters. The reason why I keep you here is because your parents once strongly funded this museum when they were alive. Then, pointing to the mess everywhere, I don't care how long it takes you to clean up. Anyway, you clean up this place for me. Otherwise, you leave." After the curator finished speaking, he walked out angrily. Evelyn looked at the mess everywhere and lowered her head in annoyance. Seeing this scene, Allen's heart moved. He knew that the plot was about to begin. Sure enough, Jonathan came to Evelyn with a strange box. Evelyn found a map from more than 3,000 years ago in the box. It showed the location of Hamunaptra, the city of the dead. However, this 3,000-year-old map was extremely simple, and after so long, the terrain in the desert had changed countless times, and Allen was not sure he could find its exact location. In this case, he could only rely on the power of the protagonist, but Allen did not want to wait for the group of pharaoh guards to know and intercept them, so he prepared to use his own way. After memorizing the map, Allen snapped his fingers, and a flash of inspiration passed by. Sleeping spell. Evelyn and Jonathan suddenly felt very sleepy. Their eyelids became heavier, and after a breath, they fell asleep with their bodies tilted. Allen reached out and took the key and map from him. With a wave of his right hand, the next moment the figures of the three people appeared directly in their home. Memory weaving. Allen cleared all their memories of the key and map, and then made up a memory according to their own habits. Although memory weaving can change memories, fake ones are fake, and those modified memories may recover by themselves one day. Sometimes this time is a year and sometimes it is decades. After completing the memory weaving, Allen went directly to Cairo prison. The protagonist Okana was imprisoned at this time, and if there was no accident, he would be hanged. He went directly to the warden's office. After paying some money, Allen successfully met Okana. He was dirty, with stubble on his face, messy hair, a sour smell on his body, and calloused hands. This poor middle-aged man was O'Connor, who escaped from Hamunata. Sir, he is the person you are looking for. The warden nodded and flattered Allen. Is it okay for me to take him away? Allen looked at the poor O'Connor and said to the warden, no problem, sir. You can take him away at any time. Allen nodded and took O'Connor out of Cairo prison. Who are you? Why did you save me? What is your purpose? O'Connor moved his wrists, that were painful from the handcuffs, and looked at Allen and asked, it doesn't matter who I am. What matters is that I want to go to Hamunata. Allen did not answer his question and spoke directly. Hamunata? I don't know what you are talking about. Hearing Hamunata, he became alert instantly and denied that he knew Hamunata. Haha, don't be nervous, relax, I know you have been there, Allen said softly, and there seemed to be a magic in his voice. As Allen's voice became softer, O'Connor's expression gradually relaxed. Psychological suggestion. Tell me the location of Hamunata. Allen took out a well-made map and handed it to O'Connor. O'Connor took the map very cooperatively, then picked up a pen and wrote and drew on the map. Soon a clear route was marked. Allen took it and checked it, then gave him some money and sent him away. Chip. Scan this map. Mark the location of Hamunata. A large amount of data flashed, and a map appeared in front of Allen. Looking at the marked locations, Allen left Cairo, bought a few camels, and entered the desert. Hamunata is not in this world. You can only enter it at a certain time. If Allen uses the flying technique to fly directly over, he may see a piece of yellow sand. Only when the sun rises and the sunlight over the mountains shines on the sand dunes, the city of the dead, Hamunata, will appear, and it will only appear for 10 minutes. If it exceeds this time, Hamunata will disappear again. If you want to enter, you can only wait for tomorrow's sunrise. The Sahara Desert is hot and dry all year round. Sandstorms are the norm here. The poisonous snakes and scorpions hidden under the sand dunes will take your life when you are not paying attention. Allen rode a camel leisurely in the desert. If you approach leisurely, you will find that it is very cool around him, as if you are in a forest, with a breeze blowing, bringing a trace of cool water vapor. After walking along the map for 3 days, Allen finally came to a place marked on the map, but there was yellow sand everywhere, without any trace of the city. Allen came to the sand dune, released all his mental power, and carefully searched any place around, but he found nothing at all, as if it was just an ordinary sand dune. Allen's eyes flashed, and he stretched out his hand and a staff appeared in his hand. Then an invisible force spread from the staff. With the help of the power of the artifact, Allen finally found something strange. On this seemingly ordinary sand dune, there was a very hidden space crack. The crack was covered by a divine power. If it were not for the power of the artifact, Allen would probably need to be promoted to a legend to find it. Sensing the divine power above, Allen did not rashly touch the crack, and turned back to the bottom of the sand dune. At this time, there were still more than 10 hours before sunrise. He took out food and cushions from the dimensional space. After eating, he fed the camel, then sat cross-legged, meditating quietly, waiting for the sun to rise. P.S. Thank you for the reward of 100 starting coins from the Lonely Wanderer. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.